Welcome to the Dirt Life Show with your host, George Hamill.
What is up, guys? Happy Monday night. We have episode 122 of the Dirt Life Show tonight. We are going to be talking about the history or the lineage of off-road racing. We have some fantastic guests for you guys tonight, but we want to make sure that you guys chime in and join us. Tonight's going to be a really special night for me because I got a lot to learn about the off-road world. I'm a big side-by-side guy, but now I'm going to try to see if I can venture off into some of these other genres of racing. Sitting to my immediate left, we got none other than Bob Bauer. He's a 7-time Baja champion. What you said before, Bob, was that that's not the number that matters.
Well, the number that matters is you guys are watching a fellow here who has lost the Baja 1000 24 times. And I'll tell you, that'll make it tough.
But give yourself some credit, though, because you've done a fantastic job racing desert, and I'm really happy to have you here. I've been able to share co-hosting duties with you at places like the Mint 400, but now it's my honor to have you here and tell a little bit about your story with some other fantastic guys, too.
Well, you want to hear about my story?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that good. I started out as a child. No, actually, truth be told, that's exactly when I started out, George. I was 8 years old. And I haven't forgotten this because it all kind of came back to me when they inducted me in the Hall of Fame. I was 8 years old. I was downstairs in the living room paging through, I think it was a Motor Trend or a Car and Driver, one of the car books.
Just like all of us kids do when we're little, page through the
Yeah. And I just, on the ground there, and I was reading this story about the Bill Stropp Lincoln Mercury teams running the Pan Americana Carrera, or the Carrera Pan Americana. And I was kind of putting my hand, and I thought, whoa, that's just like the adventure.
Yeah.
I just, and it stuck with me. I said, if I could ever, that would, but no, there's no way. Later, I met Bill Stropp. And so it's like the light just sort of like glimmered a little.
So not to stop you right there, but that's exactly what we're trying to talk to the audience about tonight is that same dream or glimmer in your eye when you're young, right? And it's the lineage that makes it what it is today, but it's also the lineage that gives the dream to people that don't know about off-road.
Well, I think in the early years, if there are early and late, you don't know what's happening.
Off-road is still pretty new, man. As much as we think it's got all of this grandeur, it's pretty new in the whole scheme of things. Let me get through some of these sponsors and stuff so we can have Amy and everybody join in.
Yep.
So first of all, I want to thank Bob for coming in. Bob is actually he's a media personality, and he was a Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame inductee. So congratulations on that, Bob. We really appreciate it. So if you guys have any fun stories about Bob too, feel free to share them, man. Let us know.
This is the dirt show, so bring the dirt. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
Exactly. So we're at IMG Motorsports. We always want to thank those guys for letting us hang out here. They're doing a fantastic job getting all your guys' cars ready. We saw a bunch of people getting them. Look, Amy Lerner just joined us. She's going to be one of our guests tonight. It's cool to see all of you guys have trust in IMG to get your cars and everything done down here. One of the things we want to do, we just mentioned Amy Lerner. Amy Lerner did a documentary called One More Win with Rod Hall.
Correct.
Fantastic human being, very good friend of yours.
Yes.
We're going to talk about him and the documentary a little bit tonight. We want everybody to go watch that documentary. I watched it myself. Fantastic.
It grabs you.
Oh, my God. It was like, for me, it really sunk to my heart because I was like, these people and this connection that off-road brings is just phenomenal. But we're going to talk about that a little bit more tonight. And I want to dedicate this episode, just like you guys saw in the intro when you guys watched it on Facebook and YouTube, to Rod Hall. His memory is still living with us. A lot of the things that he did in off-road are still living today. Unfortunately, he left us in 2019, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe so.
So we're going to miss Rod very much. He was a fantastic human being and great for the sport. So we're going to dedicate this episode to Rod. And one of the things that I was thinking about in the research for this show was, as much as I really understood what was going on with the off-road world, I understood that it connected with me because I'm a guy that likes progress. I like to see things grow. Okay. I like to see things move forward. And just like this show, I didn't know what I was doing when I started this. Kind of like you. You just got thrust into the media stuff. You see progress now. You grew with it. Well, you did the same thing when you first started racing off-road.
Yeah.
Every guy that we're talking to tonight, the girls that we're talking to tonight, all of the people that we have here in our audience, all of them are doing the same thing. they're growing and they're progressing in their racing. They're progressing in their, fun times that they're having out at the desert. And I thought that was pretty cool because that's what connects us all.
You know, whenever anybody starts anything, unless they've been to a school to go there, you don't know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You know what you'd love to do. You maybe had an idea of what it must feel like, taste like, sound like, whatever. But we're all rookies.
Yep.
And I'll tell you this, George, it's something that hit me sometime about halfway through my life. I think it was after I'd spent 20 years at BFG and went out on my own to do stuff. I turned into a guy who just loved to be a rookie. Give it a chance to fail. Try something that you haven't done before, something you don't know how to do, and risk failing it.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and sometimes you do. Most of the times you don't. Yeah, I think it applies to off-road racing. It applies to life, too.
Yeah, Wyatt Hastings just chimed in. And he said, we're all trying to make some dream come true. And that's right.
Yeah.
And I feel like when the pioneers of this off-road culture that we're talking about, and we're going to learn a lot more about it in today's episode and further episodes as well about the lineage of off-road, but there's no way to pave the way if you do know what you're doing. You have to pave something that's unknown, right? And that's what you guys were doing at the beginning. That's what guys like Walker Evans were doing and Ivan Stewart, all of these different people that were founders, we'll call them, of the culture. They had zero idea what was happening. Some of the fun stuff that Bob's going to show you guys tonight is like maps and stuff. Caden McCachran just said Bob is the best.
Hey, Caden.
So we're going to show you guys some of the like maps that started out. Bob also was influential and the creator of, what was the program called when you started doing the maps for BFG?
Well, it started out as my own little enterprise for me. For I was racing and I didn't want to get lost, and there's a big story about how we got lost and my wife nearly threw me out. And blah, 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 blah. I guess on. But we got a lot of time for that. It's called the BFG pitting program.
Yeah.
Pitting came first, and all it did really was organize the BF Goodrich teams into such a cooperative force.
Right.
They could pit each other.
A team works better than one person?
Absolutely. Well, when you have 6 teams, they had to set up 6 systems of pits, and that cost money. And we said, why don't we combine everybody? Just make sure no shenanigans happen in the pits. So let the race happen on the race course. Everybody get together. And boom, boom, boom. We popped out 5 championships that season.
Dang.
Yeah. Because everybody worked together. And bit by bit, this pitting idea grew and grew because, well, you've had See's Candy, haven't you?
100%.
Can you ever get into a See's Candy store and out without a piece of that candy?
You end up being like boxes of candy.
So what we did is we said, these BFG pits, hey, if you are a car in a race and you have a problem, you stop on in.
Yeah.
We don't care what tires you're on. We don't care what your problem is. We'll weld you. We'll fix you. We'll feed you. We'll sleep you. Whatever you want to do.
That's so cool, man.
And we gave them a sample. So all of a sudden people said, well, heck, where do we get these tires?
Yeah.
Right over here.
And that's growing.
That's how we started doing it.
So there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that same mentality. But, okay, let's get through the sponsors real quick. And then at 5:20, which is going to be 8:20 her time, Amy Lerner is going to join us and talk about that documentary. So I always tell you guys are more than welcome to join us anytime. Hang out with us on Instagram at The Dirt Life Show and Facebook and YouTube as well. We broadcast from all 3 different networks, Mondays at 5 p.m. We have fantastic guests on, so you can hang out with us. If you can't, make sure you listen to the show, share it with your friends. There's no payment for the show. We bring it to you free. We have good partners that partner up with us, but we really like you guys to share the show so we can make this thing grow and we can keep it going for you guys.
Does that mean I can't tell them what I'm paying you to have me on?
I wish that we were getting paid. I actually had somebody offer to pay to be a guest on the show, but I guess that means we're doing something right.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. You guys are our lifeblood. Without you guys, we couldn't have anything. Shout out to Solderweld. Yeah, thank you to the guys over at Solderweld for supporting the show. But yeah, please get interactive with us. Always chime in. Send us direct messages. Let us know what you want to talk about. And please let us know what we can do better, too. It means a lot to us to be able to bring you guys this show. So thank you to you guys over at KMC Wheels. Please stop by your perfect timing with the KMC Wheels in the background. So please stop by your local 4-wheel parts dealer or any of your local off-road shops, Discount Tires, wherever it is, and buy some KMC wheels because they sponsor the show, and we want to make sure that we're giving back to them. Justin Chasen, what's up, dude? Thank you guys over at Motul. Got my Motul shirt on today. Got some Motul oils here too, and the Shine and Go. So basically, if you go in an off-road race like the Baja 500, you can wash your car afterwards, spray this on, make sure truck, vehicle look brand new, man. So
That could be a shower in the trunk. I mean, you
dude,
just take care of yourself.
It totally could be, and it smells so freaking good. It smells like bubble gum. So thank you guys over at Motul for sponsoring the show. Please go down to your local Cycle Gear or your local dealership and buy some Motul products. Thank you guys over at Shock Therapy. Got my Shock Therapy hat on today. You can use the code DIRTLIFE and go get yourself some limit straps, a steering rack, a BSD kit, whatever it is. Get your shocks tuned up. Wyatt KMC is top notch. So please visit those guys over at Shock Therapy. Wednesday, we're going to actually be over there in Phoenix at Shock Therapy doing a shop tour, so you guys can expect some cool content from there. Thank you guys over at EFX Tires. You can get those badass tires for your UTV. Thank you guys over at Evolution Power Sports. Build some power in your car, man. You can use Code Shooter, which is a mobile app that you can actually tune your own car. Throw an exhaust on it, get the tune matched up, get one of their new clutching kits. So thank you guys over at Evolution Power Sports for helping out the show. Thank you guys over at Zollinger Racing Products. You can use the code TheDirtLife to get some tie rods, radius rods, or anything and match it up with your Shock Therapy stuff that you bought, like your steering rack. So use the code TheDirtLife at ZollingerRacingProducts.com. Thank you to the guys over at Cryo Heat. You can get a Pro Mod transmissions. Those things have been jumping off the shelves basically over there for your UTV. Less weight, less rolling resistance, makes those UTVs way faster. And, of course, thank you to the guys at Solderweld. Huge shout-out to the Solderweld guys. You can use the code DIRTLIFE, solderweld.com, and get yourself an off-road repair kit. All right, so we're going to have a few awesome guests tonight. Some of them are Bob's friends as well. Amy Lerner, I said, did a documentary on Rod Hall called One More Win. And I think the film was based on his last race in Baja.
The build up to it and through it.
Okay.
So a lot of it's about what led him to that point, so that you got the history in the movie and everything else, and it became important that he get that one.
Here comes Amy right now. Before we get Amy on, it looks like Art's saying what's up to you.
Hey, Art.
Let's see here. All right, let's get Amy on the show real quick, and then I'll introduce our other guests as well while we're waiting for Amy to join. So we are also going to have Jeff Furrier from UPR Off-Road, a legend in off-road racing as well.
Yeah.
He's going to join us a little bit later. And one of your buddies, Rory Ward, is also going to join us. So both of those guys know more about off-road than I'll ever know. So it's pretty cool to see. I'd like to welcome Amy Lerner to the show. What's up, Amy? How are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me. And hey, Bob, how are you?
Doing good. Welcome home.
Yeah, thanks. I'm a little bleary-eyed. I just got back from Saudi Arabia yesterday afternoon. So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Did you have to fly? Did you fly over Russia, or did you have to go around?
Actually, unless my geography is wrong, we kind of go under. Yeah, and then they pop up after that. Yeah, it was not a concern.
Okay, good.
Well, so Bob, I don't know Amy that well. I've just talked to her a few times on the phone. So, Amy, can you please tell us a little bit more about your connection to off-road?
Sure. I actually started in off-road about 12 years ago in an all-women's navigation event in Morocco called the Gazelle Rally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't anything I had done before. I read about it in the New York Times. Went, thought, gee whiz, this is way too much fun, and found more and started getting into racing and cross-country rally. And along the way, Rod Hall, who was my first off-road driving instructor, I say, called me Leadfoot that first lesson, and I don't think it was a compliment.
Not when it comes from Rod in a school.
Yeah, I didn't, honestly, I had no idea who he was at the time, didn't know if he actually knew what he was doing, but he was a great guy, and I, realized in hindsight, an amazing teacher. And we, over the years, were friends, and he became a mentor to me, and we did some events together, and that was how the film idea, came to pass and my own history a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see the connections, right? Like, so let's just say myself, for instance.
Right.
And, a lot of our audience obviously has these same connections. Is for you, I'm new to the off-road scene because you've been in it so long, and that's the way a lot of us UTV guys are. A lot of the new people that are in the off-road scene now. But I've noticed that no matter who it is, whether it's a person like yourself who's been in the game for a long time or a newbie, it's an open arm welcome.
Absolutely.
And that's the same thing Amy's explaining to us right now.
Well, she also, Amy, you don't know this, but you just became part of a conversation that we were having before you showed up.
Yeah.
About being a rookie, trying new things, getting out, doing things you've never done before. Risk failure.
Yep.
And you're taking a flyer on a all women's rally, and then you fly out to Reno, Nevada to meet a little short guy that you can't quite make out yet.
Yeah, we were actually in Southern California, but yeah, pretty much it was. And you know, for me personally, I went from that, and then I went to the next thing I did after doing that Gazelle rally twice was ship my Jeep to Western Australia and actually race in the Australasian Safari Rally. And, you know, it is a place that you can take those chances, and people are super helpful and want to help other people learn and support. And, gee, you're missing a part. You need a wrench. You need a bolt. Let me see if I can help you fix that. You know, that's what you experience in off-road, which is one of the things that makes it so amazing.
Yeah, it really is cool. We talk about it on the show all the time, that same just open-armed kind of thing. So one of the things that I wanted to keep talking about was we're going to dedicate this episode to Rod Hall, obviously. You did a fantastic job bringing his life and his lineage to off-road and everything that he's done for the community to light in a documentary that you produced called One More Win. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of the documentary, how did that even come about for you?
So as I said, I'd known Rod for about a dozen years, and I ran into him in 2015 at the Offroad Motorsports Hall of Fame gala in Las Vegas ahead of the SEMA show. And we were just catching up, and he was saying, you know, I've got this 50th race coming up in 2 years, and, you know, a lot of people want to see me succeed, and they want to see me there. And I've been doing this a long time, and, you know, I've got these other things coming up. And we just chit-chatted a bit, and I went home that night and kind of percolated things in my brain. And I called him the next day and I said, hey, Rod, you know, I've got this crazy idea. You've got so many great stories, and it's really an epic achievement that you have been racing for so long and so successfully, and that it's all sort of wrapped around the fact that you would be the only person to have raced every single Baja 1000 since the very first one in 1967. So how about if I make a documentary about you, the racing that you're doing leading up to this record-setting 50th race, and your history in the sport, because you've got these cool stories and you've never really done that. And his answer to me was, well, you know, Amy, people have always asked me, can I write a book? Can I do a documentary? I've always said no to them, but because it's you asking, I'm going to say yes.
Wow. So that right there had to probably feel pretty good.
That's pure Rod Hall.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
He spots winners in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I did like a mental cartwheel, and then I went, oh, heck.
Oh, you're allowed to cuss on this show. You can say shit. No problem.
Good girl.
Woo.
Yeah. Cathartic.
You know, what I'd ever done before. I knew a little bit about it, but not, you know, no experience whatsoever. And then this friend just handed me his life story to take care of. So I felt the weight of it at the moment, and then started making phone calls.
Yeah, but that's still, I mean, it's just like, isn't honor the right word? I mean, it's still so cool to be able to have that opportunity, right? And the fact that you have to also learn, though, right? I mean, we always talk about it on this show in particular, like, everybody nowadays has social media. They can see what people are doing. They think they know somebody. They really do. They think, I just saw that guy go eat. I just saw that guy have fun. I know who this person is. But the fact is, none of us really do. And I can only imagine, you know, like, I've talked with Bob, you know, hundreds of times now. And the thing I do is I learn something new every time. So in your position doing the documentary, I can only imagine how much of a sponge you were the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. I became a student not only of the off-road industry, but a student of this person named Rod Hall, and learned a lot about his background. But a lot of what developed in the story was because of the relationship that he and I had, that we knew each other, we trusted each other. And I think what made the film to me so special was what happened to Rod, you know, as we were leading up to that race in 2017, and the challenges that he faced and the personal nature of those challenges. I'm trying not to give any spoilers.
Yeah. And that's That's the kind of stuff that was so interesting to me. And please tell everybody how to watch the documentary right now, and then we'll finish it up and we'll tell them again at the end. But I would like to share a couple stories with you guys both.
Sure. It's available to watch on Amazon, on iTunes, on Vimeo, and also I think on Google Play is the other one.
Yeah, it's so hard to figure out all these ones. I actually watched it on iTunes or Apple TV. It was fantastic. I really had a good time watching it. It really made me feel like I was part of the off-road heritage, like once I was done.
Excellent.
You know, Amy, you did more than just a good thing for the Hall family when you did that piece. Bob's opinion is, you did an awful lot to add substance to the fabric of the heritage that we have in off-road, because there was a 20-year period. We're talking about the history, but right. A 20-year period before after the Hall of Fame became active, it died in about 5 years, went dormant. In that period, great things happened by great people and amazing accomplishments were pocketed, but nobody knew. So your film helps stitch together those histories, because as George is pointing out, all of us in the off-road world, I think we're all alike.
Yeah,
I mean, we really are, and I believe this to this day. I don't care if you've got a flat bill and black hats and piercings and things like that. I know you got it just as bad as I do.
Yeah, 100%. Everybody is the same, right? Keen Racing says, let's see the Hall of Fame ring, Bob, close up to the camera. Can you put it at that camera right there, Bob?
Yeah. I have to lift it up. Oh, God.
Yes, there you go.
Let's see. Does this?
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see. I'll get it aimed.
There you go. That's a good-looking ring, man.
Well, it helps to be dyslexic, doesn't it?
Oh, that thing is sweet,
man. How close will it focus?
I don't know. That looks pretty good to me.
Oh, shit. I mean, oh, shoot. Or oh, crap. Hey, this is backwards. I'm not. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Wyatt Hastings says, wow. So, yeah, the lineage of off-road goes a long ways, and what Amy captured on the screen was pretty cool. I don't want to this episode doesn't need to be about just promoting her documentary. I really want to share the lineage of off-road because that's what makes her documentary so special. So one thing that I was going to ask both of you, and we'll let Amy go first, is what was one of the best stories that you remember about Rod during the filming of the documentary?
Oh my gosh.
Something that just stands out to you, that because I know what my favorite part was.
There were a lot, but the thing that really sort of put it all in perspective for me was learning that when he went down Baja for that first race in 1967, he basically thought he was like just going to go on a little off-road trip with his friends. And he had like a sandwich and some coolers, a cooler in the back with some sandwiches that got wet and then he couldn't eat them. And he decided tools because they were clanking around. So he left, 90% of them at the side of the road and they just went chugging along. And it was the beginning of this huge industry.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Just my mind.
It's crazy to think about that, right? Because when you think about it from, we'll call it a non-off-roader, a normal person standpoint, like the naivety, being naive? I don't know what the plural for that is. But yeah, naivete. So the being naive is one of the best things that any racer can have, because if they don't know, they just go do it, like what Rod did, right? It's so cool.
I didn't know this was hard.
Exactly. So that, I think, is one of the things that really is what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it kind of that spirit of adventure just sort of drove his whole career. He always wanted something new.
What else or the other thing about Rod is, yes, the adventure drove his career, but his telling the stories of it drove his happiness.
Oh,
yes.
Really? Okay, so there's something more to that motivation.
Oh, he wanted Bob's Reed. And I only knew him for 35 or so years, but he just couldn't wait to share what he had experienced. He already understood that he was apparently better at it than most, but that didn't have him feeling superior. If anything else, it'd have him feel responsible to help teach somebody. Here's a little lady who's coming to a rally school, never been to one before in her life. So He studied you like a little bug in a bottle, Amy. I just know he did, and you didn't realize it was happening.
Yep.
That is so cool. That shows the support and the humbleness that a person has.
Well, yeah. Rod's had other businesses. When I first encountered him, I was his boss. I was the BFG race guy. He was contracted us. And at that time, Rod had this kind of like style, which meant smoke a cigar, drink this, and chase that skirt, and screw everything else. That was his mentality. And as long as he was winning races, he didn't have to tell a sponsor to do squat.
That's a good point, because it was different back then. You didn't need to show everything on social media. You just needed to prove yourself.
Oh no,
a different way, right?
Oh, he was wrong. Oh, he was way wrong. We helped him understand a little bit of understanding was that it's what you do between the green and the checkered is what you're being paid to do, and that's expected. It's what you do after the last checker, before the last green, that will cement your relationships with your sponsors.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? A lot of the people that are watching this show have questions about how to get sponsors and do all these things. That's a very good baseline to have.
Well, it is. I mean, Rod and I would spend hours going over sponsor candidates, our candidates. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just Bob. But I figured, well, if I want to know about somebody, let's look them up. So in those days, you'd go to the Dun & Bradstreet books and look up the businesses because we didn't have the internet.
Well, that's kind of what we were going to talk about. And Amy brings light to this by providing us a documentary that we can all watch now. But back in the day, I hate saying that. But before social media, it was hard for people to follow these stories. It was hard for people to keep up on this stuff. And now it's just all this information is right in front of us. In fact, the other day,
it's instant.
Yeah, somebody told me that now every single human on the planet with a cell phone has more information than the president of the United States did in 1995. Like, it's insane, right? So the way that off-road evolved, I don't know if you've ever seen any of it, Amy, but I'd like Bob to show us some of these things that they used to use, like him and Rod, when they would go down on the Baja Peninsula, what they were for the races. I think you have a map and things here with us, Bob, because these things are part of the lineage that you were able to capture from the racing and from all of these things that you did in the documentary. So what's the first artifact that you have here with us, Bob?
Well, I think the first artifact would be the memory of Rod. When Rod started racing Baja, like the Baja 1000, this little basic book didn't exist either.
It didn't?
Right? No. It was, there's the finish line. Find the telegraph office in La Paz. When you get there, let somebody know so we can get a good time on you. Find your way there. Find your way.
There's also
right, Amy?
That's crazy.
Yeah, Rod tells the story of being at the bull ring in 1967, and I think it was a guy from Jeep came up and said, "Rod, here's a compass. If you get confused, if you get lost, just remember the end of the peninsula, La Paz, is southeast. It's always going to be southeast."
That was me.
Was it?
Really?
Yeah, remember I told you about the Orion constellation?
Yes, but you didn't give him. You gave him you didn't give him the compass. But he has
no. I was a Jeep guy.
Yes, I was going to get to your. That was a great moment in the movie, but so that was what they did the first couple of times. There was no course, there was no tracks, there were barely. And Rod, it didn't make it into the movie, but it has a story of being out in the wilderness somewhere, and this other team that was leading passes him, and they're going like northwest. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, those guys know what they're doing. They've been down here before, but they're going northwest. What do we do? Do we follow them?" And he's like, "Nope, southeast. Get out the compass. Southeast is that way. The guys went that way. We're going that way." And that's what they did. And Bob, great line in the film where he points out that most people look at the Baja Peninsula and they think it goes north-south.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It actually goes southeast.
When you're in La Paz, George, you are at a point east, about midway between Denver and Salt Lake City.
Big time, like way further east. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I've always looked at the map and I've seen that. But so to be the naive guy about the way that things used to happen, like, to me, this is like Lois and Clark shit. Like, you have zero idea where the fuck you're going, right? I mean, you're just heading in one direction,
but you're in a hurry.
hoping and praying that you can make a destination. I mean, for guys like me that have entered the scene when GPS was already living, that to me is phenomenal in its own right. Like, yeah, see, and Amy agrees, but Bob grew up doing this, so he's looking at me like, nah, it's no big deal.
Well, you learned, and I learned a ton from Rod.
Yeah.
We would spend hours in his Dodge pre-runner. And one of the reasons we spent hours is because we went slow. It wasn't a fast process. But what he taught me to do, and I've been glad to teach others, is to step back and just take a look at the overall. Where are you? In a race car, it's easy to keep your focus down here. Amy, when you're running a 911 in the Dakar, your scope of view had to be maybe 50, 60 yards ahead of you, and then if you got fast, it had to go further down ahead. But what happens in a race car, in a truck, is it's really easy to just look down. Where am I going to be next? Where am I going to be next? Well, you got to look up. Where are the mountains? What's the water doing? Rod taught me to look to see what the water did.
Yep.
Then he taught me to see it at night when you can't see it.
Right.
And, these are things that Rod learned by experiences, Amy, huh?
Yeah. You got a full moon, you can see the glimpse of the mountain range and all these different things. Yeah.
Yeah. And even there's I learned to see this place called Santa Catarina. It's it's in the first 100 miles of the 500,000 when they run that way. But you don't know exactly where you are. You look up and you look at the red mountain. There's a mountain that's mostly red with a white blaze in it. That's Santa Catarina. If that's Santa Catarina, then we got to go this way.
Yep.
That's how we did it.
Man, that is so phenomenal. I think there's some people that still have that same intuition that race nowadays, but it's few and far between. I think most of these guys really rely on the GPS, and that's neither here nor there. You can still win a race doing it either way, but I feel like you really ease your mind if you actually have a good sense of direction and landmarks when you're going.
Well, some of us are. I have an opinion about GPS. Maybe Amy will chime in on this too, because I think you're the same race ethic as old Bob, and that is in the desert racing. Every race car in the race needs to have a GPS in it.
I agree.
Wrapped up in a rag. Tossed behind the seat.
Just in case.
So if you have it all goes to doo-doo, you got somebody call and say, well, it says I'm right here. Come and get me. Because here's what they started doing right away. The drivers, always looking for a competitive edge, they would say, well, I can use this like radar. I mean, if I don't have to see. I don't care if it's dusty. I can see through the dust.
Yep.
And there's some roads along this place called San Juanico and going to San Ysidro where the drop off into the ocean's got to be 60 feet down.
I remember.
And so if you're driving your GPS, what they don't know is that little cursor on the screen happened about a second and a half ago.
Right. You can get a lot of trouble in a second and a half.
60 miles an hour, 44 feet a second. So if it's only 60 feet out of your way,
you're
out.
Yeah.
Plus, they use it as radar. So I'm a strong advocate of use of GPS properly. I'm not an advocate of using it as a radar.
Yeah, I agree 100%. If you got the visuals, it's much better. Yeah. What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree, because the GPS just gives you a point on a static two-dimensional world, basically. And there's so much else that's happening that will give you information about where you're supposed to be going, either to get to where you're supposed to go or to stay safe or to be able to go faster. So you absolutely have to pay attention to what's going on around you.
It never hurts to look right outside the race car.
Yeah, exactly.
Never hurts.
So some of the stuff that you did, and the reason that Rod would, I guess, allow you to be part of his documentary and the filmmaking was because you do have some racing and background behind you doing these different rallies. So what was some of the funnest rallies or races that you've done?
So, I mentioned the Australasian Safari Rally. That was an absolute blast because it was all new and exciting, and I ended up winning my class just by, I used to joke to Rod Beck then that he was like Yoda sitting on my shoulder, keeping me, remembering his calm, confident demeanor, his, whatever happens, we'll figure it out sort of mentality. And, you go as fast as the car can take you, and you just try to, aim to get to the end. And that was a super fun experience. My most recent was in a 1982 Porsche 911 in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I saw some of those pictures. Those were really cool.
The year before, that just sports car in the dirt. So much fun.
Could you imagine? I've never driven a sports car in the dirt. Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, have you? Which car?
A 911, actually.
Not the same one
No,
as
no,
her.
no. It was a rally guy. It was at a rally school.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I can tell you what, it's a, you get a 911, it's a low polar car. You can flick
Yeah,
that
I was
puppy
going to
up
say,
and-
that thing's probably got to
and,
be
all
like...
you need to do is gas it back and steer it into where you want it to go. And it sounds so
Yep.
simple, huh?
Yeah.
And if you want it to loop around on you, just get into the turn, lift on the throttle for half a second, then get back in. You're going around.
We had Raina Racing. I think you know her. She said, thought it was because sister was there.
Yes, that is my sister Trisha, and she was my co-driver in Australia.
Oh, there you go.
Well, I'd say people are paying attention. Amy, better keep it clean, okay?
I have to watch what I say. No, but that really, that was an added bonus to be able to do that with my sister.
So that goes back to stuff that we talk about all the time. You know, everybody in off-road is a family, whether you do have family in the car or not. You know what I mean? If it's your best friend sitting there, that's part of your family. You know, your off-road family.
Yeah.
It's super cool to see that kind of stuff. And you also got to be part of the documentary that Amy filmed, One More Win, as well, right?
Yes. It wasn't my finest hour. I mean, Amy, in all of her wisdom, was parked at the outside of the bar at the Nora awards banquet. So I'm sure you heard some very intelligent things that night.
No, really great interviews. Unfortunately, the film is 82 minutes, and it probably could have been 282 minutes if we added in some more of the footage.
You know, Amy, after I saw that film, I thought a lot about you and all the things that had to not get in the film. I mean, it's like a big old puppy drowning. How did you go? I mean, that alone had to put you in therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Tough. And I've been, I've been in contact with Barbara Rainey at the Hall of Fame, and I've got to kind of wait until I get all the distribution set. But I'm hoping that I can, give them all the rest of the footage, because it's history.
It truly is, yeah.
People that had stories of the early days, and we just couldn't fit everything in. You've got to keep the story going. Unfortunately,
I can only imagine how much.
There's so much.
Yeah, how much Amy probably wants to do a One More Win Part 2, you know what I mean? Because there was so much other stuff. But that's kind of the stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight is by opening the show, I was saying to Bob and to our audience that I've learned so much just researching this one show. And I don't know that much about off-road compared to the people that we're talking to tonight. But I want to do more. I'd like to do 2 or 3 episodes a year about the lineage and the history of off-road, because I think it's so valuable for people to know, and there's so much excitement in understanding the progress and the growth that the industry has had over the past years. And we're going to learn a lot about that tonight, and you did a fantastic job doing the documentary, showing us that same stuff.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in a while, Amy. I confess. It's good for the soul. I'm going to go back and look.
Yeah.
Great.
It is pretty cool. All right, so let's get back to the story. We have, we're keeping our fingers crossed that Ricky Johnson can call in. He was traveling near the desert, so I don't know if he'll have good cell phone coverage, but he was going to try to Instagram live in and hang out with us, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. In the meantime, let's kind of show some of the stuff that you have here, Bob. So let's explain to everybody what that is and show them some of the inner workings of it.
One of the things that I was very involved in was helping to establish the BFG pitting organization for desert racing.
Right. And
it started out just as pitting, and then it evolved into maps to help people know what's going on, not just on the race course, but on the highway, and it was a safety move. So I brought a bunch of old stuff. And first one I want to show you is...
we'll call this Show and Tell of Off-Road.
Show and Tell, yeah. This is what is it, Monday
yeah.
Show and Tell. This is a course map for the 86 Baja 1000. Well, this is all you got from SCORE. And this was a big step forward from what Rod experienced on his first time. Inside are just tulips and notes.
I got it for you, yeah.
Careful, there's the inserts, the changes. And so that was the only way people knew at all how to go find what they're going to find in Baja. Well, the mapping that started with BFG pits was really started because I got lost. And I can't remember what year. I think it was 86 or 87 Baja 1000. It was with Mike Randall. And we'd gotten off course and lost and thought we were saved when we saw this big white hard pack out in front of us. Turns out it was the salt crust on top of the mud marsh that kept us there for 2 days.
It's so crazy to see, though. Like, for me, I don't know how you translate this, Amy. How do you get to the dang finish line? Like,
one step at a time.
Good God.
And actually, Bob, I have to say a thank you to Donna Hall, who kept a tremendous amount of Rod's archives over the. And I took the boxes home with me and went through them and found some real treasures in there. And one of them was, I don't think it was 1967. It might have been a couple of years after, but created your maps. And it was basically just a hand-drawn map of the peninsula with a line that went down it and approximate dots for all the towns and the distance it would take you to get from town to town to town, because you would have to go from town to town to town, because that would be the only place you could get gas. If you missed the town, there were no other gas stations. And that was basically how they planned the race route back then, where you could get the gas. And that was it. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. Like, that still blows my mind. And for anybody that's just going to listen to this show on iTunes and just hear the audio version, you should definitely go back and check out some of the visuals that Bob is sharing by seeing, by looking at Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, because they're phenomenal.
We didn't know how bad we had it. I mean, this was like, oh, cool. They're going to tell us where to go. So we did.
It's just insane for me to think about. First of all, I think it's fantastic that you guys were able to do that. I think most of us, we'll call them, like, I'll classify myself as a newbie. If we had that map, we would be roaming all over the peninsula.
Well, we were too.
Amy, could you imagine using one of those to get down there?
Actually, yes, because the Gazelle Rally in Morocco, the way that rally works, you check your cell phones and all your electronics in the beginning. They Ziploc them in a plastic bag, and you don't see them for 2 weeks. And you get hand-drawn that were from the 50s, 60s, and a ruler and a compass and some pencils, and off you go.
They were in a foreign language.
My way down there. Maps, I think, were, I don't even know what language the maps were in, but most of that rally wasn't in French. But
good God, that is so crazy for me to even think about that stuff. But I do think that, like, big fan of exploration.
Yeah.
So I do think that was one of the things that probably drew you guys to it.
Well, I no, I don't think so. I think the exploration was just a necessary evil. You had to figure out where you're going to go.
That makes sense.
The adventure. Amy brought it up first. I think that word is right. The adventure. Yeah, and then there's that 3-letter word that I believe to the fiber of my core has driven the off-road racing world from the very get-go. 3 letters, F-U-N. It's just fun.
Yep.
And
F-U-N, yeah. And we talk about family. Here's how it starts. Have you ever been to the end of the race where people aren't busy talking to each other even though they don't know each other?
No, everybody's so hyped up.
Yeah, of course. And so that's how you get to be friends. And you say, oh, man, I went through the same hole, or I hit that rock, or you put the rock in front of me, or any one of those things. It's just you're so excited to be around other reprobates that did just the same thing for the last 2 days. So give me more.
That's crazy. Well, one thing that you just mentioned that just came out of your mouth was last 2 days. That's usually a 1,000 peninsula run. When it takes 2 days. But how much longer did it take you to do these things than it would today? Like, the modern trophy truck with GPS is like a freaking rocket ship.
Well, you might be surprised.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the averages have been 60 miles an hour, 59 miles an hour, 62 miles an hour for years.
Really?
For years. I can't explain that. When Robbie and I overhauled it in 89 in the Venable Ford, we clipped off an 18-hour, 4-minute run.
Really?
But our time was still in the 60s, maybe 59. When the Simons did it in 92, right in the 60s. And
that's insane.
we could take a look back, and I don't know if we'd find out what Luke did in this year's Peninsula run. But I'll bet if it's over 60, it's that far over.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy for me to even think about, man. Amy, that's phenomenal.
yeah, and that's the trophy trucks. You still have the more production-y classes.
Right.
Will take 30, 35 hours.
Absolutely, yeah.
Instead of 32 or 36.
My winning time in 17 when we won, I think we had a winning time of 31 hours and change. and we beat the other guys by 5.
Good God, man, that's insane for me to even think about. And I guess the craziest part about that is that it hasn't changed that much. All of us think that all this technology and all of these things are doing it so much different, but the matter of fact is people do some pretty amazing stuff in pretty amazing vehicles from the start until now.
Yeah, you shouldn't be surprised though, George.
I don't know. It kind of does blow me away, man.
It's all mental, and look at what you've put your body through.
Oh,
and all the mental stuff that. Who we got there?
This is Rory Ward. He said racecourse roughness is a major factor. So,
Yes.
but thank you for the compliment, Bob. I do appreciate that.
But I mean, it's all, if you have to use it, you have to use it. And once you use it, you know how to use it. I mean, once you use it, you know how to understand it.
Right, and then you
Mental
can also
toughness.
and you can also adjust. Human beings do some amazing things, right? But the fact is it's still so crazy for me to think like I've only been down to Baja and been really integrated with it twice. And so for me, when I understand this stuff, it's brand new compared to what you think.
I see.
And when I see these things, even in the modern day,
Right.
it is phenomenal for me to see any person in any vehicle get to that finish line. So when I think about it in reverse or in when we're looking at the maps that you're putting here or talking about these stories that you and Rod actually lived, that to me, it literally pops my top. Like it blows me away because I have never experienced that like you have. You have a humble mindset about it, but it's still mind-blowing to me.
I just keep falling back into my default thing is we didn't know how bad we had it.
It's so cool though. I mean, Amy, to hear what you've done, even in the Gazelle Rally, is like I know Sarah Price. She's also done that as well. And when I first heard that she did it and that you're doing it now, like to me that blows my mind. But these guys are doing it a long, long time ago. So there's some respect that we have to have for these guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sport has evolved, the technology and the vehicles have evolved. But at the end, even today, it's a hard thing to do. It is still really, really challenging. So anybody, as you said, that just gets in a car and gets to the race and then gets to the end of the race, it's a huge accomplishment. And we can tag back to Rod Hall's famous "to finish first, you must first finish."
It's surprising. Yeah, he taught us.
Really,
I'm sorry, Amy, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just was saying that's so appropriate in this situation.
Yeah, it is. And that's kind of where I was leading. So thank you for the transition. It was perfect to see that. I know we have to let you go, but it was perfect to understand that when I watched the documentary, and I learned so much. Like I felt like I was a more knowledgeable racer after watching the documentary. I felt like I was a more connected racer to the sport after watching it. I felt like I was part of the culture a little bit more. Like it really made me feel good to see that because again, I'm the newbie here. I had never experienced anything like that. And when I got to sit next to you, at the Mint 400 or even now, like I really understand how much meaning this whole industry and the sport has for all of these people. Thousands and thousands of family and friends. It's so awesome. And she captured that.
She did. And I would want somebody, watching this show tonight to understand this is not a series of race clips. It's not a Desert People video.
Right.
This is a deep dive into understanding what was behind the man and what made him go and how he did it and the things he learned along the way that we could learn along the way. And
and the culture too that supported him
very much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. So let's give them again a little plug and understanding of how they can go watch the movie One More Win.
Yep, you can watch it on Amazon, iTunes, Vimeo, Google Play, and I think there are one or two other places, and I'm a really bad producer / co-director for not having the full list. But
that's okay. I do think that most people will probably watch it on some sort of Apple device or like Google device. And the way that I found it was I just typed in One More Win, how to watch on Google, and it popped right up. So
onemorewinfilm.com is the website for the film.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's even more better.
Social.
Yeah, so go check it out for sure. You guys are going to learn a lot. It's really cool to be able to watch that, Amy, and I'm glad that I was able to communicate with you guys beforehand so I could check it out because it really did. It really made my it hit me in the heart understanding that. And it wasn't just because of the racing portion of it. I'm a big human guy. I love human beings in general, and it really hit me in the heart watching that thing. And I know it did you too, Bob.
I'm that way.
Yeah. So thank you very much for joining us, Amy. Really appreciate it. You got anything else that you want to talk about before we let you go?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for your impressions of the film. And it was a long time for filming, and it was also a long time in edit, because the racing biography I kind of thought I was going to make in the beginning turned into, as you mentioned, something much more human and personal and, very, very private struggle that just one man, who could have been any man, went through. And I wanted to capture all that and convey all of it. So makes me really happy to hear that your impressions were.
Oh my God. Yeah. And the life that just turned that way, right? But the capturing the human emotion and stuff that you did is fantastic. Like you couldn't ask for anything more. So good job with that. Bob, anything else with Amy?
I want to thank Amy again. I keep thanking you for bringing this great piece of our heritage out where people can. You've preserved it, so generations forward can realize they're part of something bigger than what they just did Saturday.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
Such an amazing community that, as I said, I got into it because I loved it and it was fun. But then to really get a chance to meet so many people who had such an impact on the lives of just so many people, just by doing what they loved and doing what they did and sharing it and talking about it and helping people and furthering the sport. So it really was an amazing community to be a part of. And it is a spirit that's special. So I was happy to have it capture it.
100%. You did a fantastic job. And like I said at the beginning of the show, in loving memory of Rod Hall, thank you to him as well for letting us be a part of that portion of his life. So, yes. All right. Well, thank you very much, Amy. We really appreciate it. I'm going to go do the same thing Bob did, and I'm going to go watch this bad boy again.
Yay!
All right. Well, we're going to go to commercial break. So thank you very much for joining us on the show. I'm glad you got home safe.
Take care. Thanks.
Hang in there, Amy. See you down the road somewhere.
Well, I'm sure we will.
Okay.
So cool to see and hear the passion that she had behind her creating this documentary, first of all, but the passion that she has for racing and for life in general, right? Because that's what gave her the opportunity to with Rod.
I'm thinking about what she said is that she discovered this man, and he said, well, getting old, and whatever it was he said, I know his scripts. I'm getting old, getting tired. But when she went home that night and it started eating on her.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, it's great to see somebody find out this, holy mackerel, I got a tiger by the tail, and it's finally happening to me.
Yep.
Good for her.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, though. And she understood the level of opportunity that she got. Okay, so what time is it now? It's 5:54. We're going to take a quick commercial break. So all you guys on Instagram, you're just going to see basic black air right now. So we're going to go take a quick commercial break. You can watch the commercials if you want over on YouTube and Facebook, but we will be right back.
Hello, I'm Justin, the founder of Shock Therapy. Shock Therapy has been around for 5 years, but we have personally been tuning suspension on off-road cars and race vehicles for over 25 years. We tune between 10 and 15 cars per day, every single day of the week. Our concentration is tuning shock systems and supplying components that improve the ride quality of your car in many ways. Not only do we work on the average UTV, but we also tune suspension for race teams and professional drivers. We currently tune for over 87 race teams in Best in Desert and Score. Our clients and race teams rely on our suspension components to allow them to win races and keep them safe. Suspension is a moving target. We are always trying to hit that target with every customer that we work with. Each customer's needs can be different, and we tune our kits accordingly. Our research and development never stops. We improve our components every single day. As the industry evolves and improves, so do our parts and kits. As of right now, we have over 100 products for UTVs. So when you bring your car to us, you have the satisfaction of knowing that you have the most experience, the highest quality products, and the fact that your car is being tuned specifically to you.
The new Code Shooter from Evolution Powersports puts the power of ECU tuning right in the palm of your hand. Available for Can-Am and Polaris, the industry's most innovative app-based ECU tuning device lets you flash your vehicle's ECU, read and reset diagnostic codes, and monitor critical live engine data, all from your smartphone. Additional Code Shooter features for Can-Am include optional dash flash, real-time monitoring of air-fuel ratio and belt temperature, and adjustable launch control for the ultimate advantage off the line. Code Shooter unleashes the full potential of your vehicle, putting you in complete control wherever Wi-Fi access or 4G cell service is available. No more waiting. No more sending in your ECU. Download, connect, flash, ride. The power of ECU tuning in the palm of your hands at evopowersports.com.
Zollinger Racing builds the best aftermarket products available. Products for your UTV or snowmobile, including billet radius rods, billet tie rods, billet steering knuckles, billet steering racks, alternator kits, and much more. All manufactured in the United States in-house at their headquarters in Nibley, Utah. Travis Zollinger and his team test in some of the most brutal conditions, racing in places like the Best in the Desert Mint 400, Ultra 4 King of the Hammers, UTV World Championships, and many more. Visit ZollingerRacingProducts.com and use the code DIRTLIFE to get 10% off your next purchase, and join us on social media at Zollinger Racing Products to see our products in action. Zollinger Racing, the best products, period. Finally, we got Lance from Solderweld in the studio. Thanks for coming down, bud. Hey, why don't we just record a commercial now?
Yeah, why not? So good to be here, man. It's been a lot. I've been trying to get down here forever, and I wanted to talk about the off-road kit.
Dude, I love those things. I got it in my pack.
Yeah, we're running hundreds of vehicles now running them, whether it's a UTV or some guy's got it in a backpack on his motocross. He's got everything he needs to make a fix right there on the fly, out on the trail, or in the desert, whatever it is.
Well, since I've already used one, I kind of know what to use it for, but explain what it does.
All right, so let's pull one out real quick. You've got your aluminum rods. Remember, they're rods, right? So, light torch, small torch. You can throw it in there or throw it on the rig with your flux. It decontaminates and cleans like let's say a radiator. You get a random rock chip runs through as you're racing. You get a rock chip in a radiator. You got to fix it right there, or you're out of the race.
You can patch it up instead of
patch it up. It's all good to go.
Yep, just like welding.
Yeah. Also, as well with that, you've got a brake line fix. So with your flux, you can fix a brake line, stainless steel. And then your hot block, heat absorption putty. So it keeps you from getting burned, number one, as well as keeps the heat from traveling. So it's really nice.
I've used this not even to fix anything, so that stuff works so good, man.
Listen, it's easy. It straps in nicely so that you have everything you need in one little place, and you don't have to carry a big bag in
It's like a first aid kit for your vehicle.
Yeah, chase trucks have it as well, so that if they need to make a fix on the fly, they can get it done and get it done quick and get you back in the race.
Dude, those things are so cool. All right, so it's at Solderweld on Instagram, Facebook, and solderweld.com.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, bud.
Appreciate it.
And now back to the Dirt Life Show.
Welcome back to episode 122 of the show. Sorry to scare you, Bob. So today is the History of Off-Road show. We're going to have some really cool stuff coming up over the next couple years, because this has been such a cool thing for me to be introduced to by a gentleman like my guy sitting right next to me, Bob Bauer, a 7-time Baja champion.
Baja 1000. You got to say Baja 1000.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, because there's a lot of Baja races.
Okay.
And I haven't won many of those.
All right, but that does
credit for that one I didn't get.
I feel like that does sound pretty good. So 7-time Baja 1000 champion.
Yeah.
That does actually mean a lot to me. I mean, like I said before, when we went to commercial break, was just to see the amount of, I don't know what you want to call it, smiles, exhaustion, all of these things at the finish line of any Baja 1000. Not winners, just finishers,
Right.
is insane. So kudos to you for being able to do that. He also missed saying he's Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame inductee. He's now a media personality for Off-Road. So Bob has lived a lot that we all have not lived, and it's really cool to have you sitting next to me, man. I appreciate it. So some of the things that I wanted to mention were we're going to have Rory Ward, Racers Only on Instagram. You can go check him out. He's also has a lot of lineage with the off-road industry. He's built or rebuilt a lot of cars like a Cheneth. I forgot what other cars he had showed me.
Mickey Thompson's Challenger 4.
Yeah, exactly.
He put it back together, restored it from just a pile of parts and a Hulk.
So
went out and won the Mint 400 in it.
Dude, he's insane, right? Yeah. So let's show a couple of these. We're also going to get into some stuff that Bob has over here to his left. Some really cool stuff, artifacts we'll call them, from the off-road world. But I'm going to show you guys a few pictures here. So before I show them on screen, can you tell them or what they can expect when they see this? What car that is?
Well, this is the Cheneth that used to be a Mark Stahl overall car.
Okay.
And Rory Ward and Jeff Furrier went together on this car, and they ran it in the Nora Mexican 1000. And the year escapes me, 13 or 14 maybe, somewhere in there. They'll tell us.
Such a cool car, right? Let's see here what the next car is that he has.
That's the Challenger 4. That's the Mickey Thompson Challenger 4. And, Mickey Thompson's cars were absolute beasts, huge beasts. And they had some strange things in there. This thing had a suspension seat that actually hung Mickey in the air.
Really?
He had such a bad back, he had to create a different way of sitting in there so that he didn't kill himself while he went racing.
That's crazy, right? This looks like a Class 1 car, maybe?
Yeah, it is. This is... We need Rory for this.
Yeah, so Rory gave me...
I think that's a trophy truck killer after he painted it.
Rory gave me some background on some of these things. So we'll let me open up the email here, so I can see what it is. But he said this car is, let's see, third restoration was a Dirt Tricks 252 Class 2 racer.
That was from Arizona.
Yeah, so this is a really cool car to see. And some of these restorations, I mean, they take years and years to actually go through, right?
Well, especially for a guy who's doing it just for the love and out of his heart and out of his very own pocket.
Yeah, super cool to see. And this one looks like, it reminds me of a Grasshopper race car. Super cool picture. What's up, John Lewis?
Yeah, that's
Ricky Johnson,
Motors.
what's up, buddy? Hopefully we can bring Ricky on in just a second here.
This looks like the car that Ivan drove when he Ironman and got his title of a Ironman.
Yeah, so this is the other car that we were looking at here. So we're going to get Ricky Johnson on here with us and hang out with him for a little bit, talk to him about the lineage of off-road.
Let me see that for a second, that picture.
Yeah, let me open it up.
Let's count the shots.
So now we are talking some off-road stuff with the man,
oh, no!
the myth, the legend, the Ricky Johnson. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good, just down here in Ocotillo Wells. As you can see, it's a beautiful day down in the desert. Going to be doing some training for the Fox engineers. So I started this program a couple months ago. It was going to start last year, but then we got into the summer months. It was a little bit too hot. So now we're taking six engineers. We go out and do everything from Jeeps to side-by-sides. We do 2 days of showing them what's going on, because the people at Fox.
Oh, no. Well, this is going to ruin the show. This happened last time too. So hang tight on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to see if we can get these guys. Maybe we can have them call in here. The awesome thing about social media is that sometimes it just throws you for a loop and makes it so that you can't actually do anything. So we're going to see if we can, it just locked us out of Instagram, so we're going to see if we can actually get back into it. We'll let you guys know in just a second here, but I'm going to try and see if I can get us back into it before we keep going. Facebook and YouTube is still doing fantastic, so you guys are more than welcome to go over there. Check it out. Oh, great. Now I have to change my password. It figures, right?
There's no mercy.
Yeah, no, never anything. So we're going to have to see how we're going to be able to get these guys on, because both these guys wanted to join via Instagram Live. Let me see if I can get Ricky connected over here on the phone. Man, I hate when stuff like this happens. It really bugs the crap out of me. But
it's stuff that happens to all of us. Really, it didn't pick you out because you're a bad karma, George.
No, it didn't. And it just sucks that stuff like this happens during the show. But it is what it is, right?
See, being an old school racer,
you got to be on the fly, right?
Well, this is one of those lessons about why you don't depend on your electrics.
Dude, 100%. So let me see if I can call Ricky Johnson real quick and get him back connected to us. There we go. So sorry for all you got Instagram people. Please come over to Facebook and YouTube.
Ricky's going to blame me.
Yeah.
You blame me.
Ricky Johnson, hey, bud, sorry. Instagram just decided that it didn't like us anymore and it was going to lock us out. So thank you very much for joining us on the phone, dude. We appreciate it while you're out in Ocotillo.
Oh, no problem. I was like, I didn't cuss or anything. I mean, it's kind of rare for me. You know, I figured we could drop a few cuss words, but no.
You can say whatever you want around here.
Yeah, that's right. I can say damn and all that good stuff. We'll get Bob to say darn it. We'll get him to really stretch out there.
Risky.
That's right. You live it on the edge, Bob. It's so it sucks that we can't talk face to face, but anyhow, we're going ear to ear. This gives me an opportunity to train the people from Fox, and I work with Luke, my son, and I should say our son because my wife had a huge part in that. So we'll have these guys and gals for 2 days, and we do it about once a month.
It's super cool that you're actually doing that. One of the things that Bob and I were talking about before was the show is going to be dedicated to the history of off-road, and Bob obviously has been in the game for a while now. He has a lot of Baja 1000 championships, 7 to be exact. But he mentioned something that was pretty crazy to me, Ricky, and that was the number that really matters was 24 that you haven't won.
Yeah, I've lost the Baja 1024 times.
But that number just makes me think, and right when you said it, it made me think, what does Ricky, like when did Ricky start and what does Ricky think of those two numbers? So Ricky, maybe you can tell us. Was yours first on a bike, Ricky?
Actually, no. The first time I did it was in 1,000 or just in Baja.
Baja.
Baja. Let's go with Baja.
When did you lose your virginity?
with Baja, I'm gonna piss everybody off on this one. The first time I raced in Baja was with I ran Baby, the John Nelson's truck that Scoop Vessels used to race, and I raced a rocket block, and Larry, Rob, McCacker, Dyson, and pushed each other. They both broke. They ended up getting going. I ended up winning. I only led the last eighth of a mile. It finished in Santa Tomas. Rob McCacker had rear gear blown. He was at the bottom of the road and asked me to push him. Mike Shopstall asked me to push him across the way, and my friend's like, I think we just won, because I thought they moved the finish line. And so I won my first time was in Class 8 in Baja, but then I went on as Bob says, a big losing streak.
I didn't say that.
Well, no, I'm just saying that it's such a. I mean, to win, so many things have to fall in place. Last year, Tavo and I and Gus got second, but we didn't have anything for Rob and Luke. And we really didn't have anything for Bryce, but Bryce ended up blowing a motor. But I think if you go down there with the attitude of I gotta win, it's a miserable place to be, because when something goes wrong, you can't wait to get out of there. I go down there with I'm gonna be the best that I can be, and I'm gonna go as fast as I can go, and I'm not gonna anybody else as far as time. So I'm not a big advocate of where is everybody else at. I try to just keep check on where I am and get to that finish line.
Yeah, and that's probably a lot of the way that you guys started when you guys started racing in Baja.
It's just an observation on my part, but what Ricky's saying is I'm watching over my world where I am. I'm in the moment. And that's his successful method, and it gets him to the races. But there's others that say, whoa, I can't just think about me. I've got to think about big picture. How long have I been driving? When do I need to eat? Or where's my next gas? You don't think back, you think forward. When's my next this, my next the other?
Yeah.
And a lot of people do get into, on purpose, almost like a Zen zone. And you work to achieve it as quickly as you can, so you can stay in it as long as possible.
Well, when I hear you guys both talk about it, the first thing that I think is Ricky thinks like a dirt bike guy.
Stadium guy, yeah. Short thing. Ricky made his bones, his name and his success, and he carried Honda with him by doing it in bursts, like pulling a pin on a hand grenade. There was no time for him to have strategy. Strategy had to react.
Yeah, some of those freaking dirt bikes he had were on the 500. They were like a damn hand grenade.
Damn straight they were. But if you've been running since from San Felipe and now you're coming into San Ignacio, which is about 600 miles down the road, you're not thinking sprint. You're thinking what's next. I don't know, Ricky. That's how old Bob does it. What do you think? We lost Ricky.
Well, no, I agree with you completely. You still here? You got me?
Yep.
You got me?
Yes, sir.
No, it's exactly that. I have I motocross and supercross the stadium. It was very personal. You were using the other drivers and they were banging on you, and it was a lot of physical stuff. But when I tried to bring that to Baja, it defeated me every time because I couldn't. It's like being mad at somebody. They don't know you're mad at them unless you confront them. So just sitting and being pissed off at somebody or wishing bad upon them doesn't do any harm to them. It just frustrates you. So if you get too wrapped up in what the other drivers are doing, then you sometimes you either push too hard or you relax too much. And I think that the guy who's really good at managing that and handling that is Rob McCachran, as we talked about in the mid 400. He always wants to know what his front door and his back door is. He wants to know where everybody's at. And I've been behind him. And once he gets to a comfortable spot, he'll relax. But he'll push hard to get to that comfortable spot. And that's exactly what he was doing with Kyle Jurgensen. And Kyle Jurgensen decided, I can't catch him. I can't make that minute. I'm going to just sit back and see what happens. And sure enough, he had a problem.
It is crazy to think.
It's always one of those things. It's always easy to think after the race what you could have done and what you should have done. But man, when you're in the middle of it, it's a bar fight and you're just trying to survive.
Yeah, you're hoping you got it right. I was thinking about that decision that Jurgensen made. He made it before he got into the race truck.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough. And it worked.
Well, yeah, but if you think about it, like I'm trying to think about it in the aesthetic of Bob brought some show and tell, Ricky. I know you can't see it now. I wish we were still on Instagram, but he brought some of the old maps that they used to use when they didn't have GPS, some of the things that Bob had developed with BF Goodrich. And to have that same mindset that you're talking about, like the short bursts and stuff like that, there's no way that would have ever been successful back then. But you had to have a different mindset, and these guys charged it like nobody's business. I mean, could you imagine doing these races when, let's see, what's the date on some of these maps that you have? 1986 you have here?
86, yeah. 86, this is an article from 89. I don't have anything earlier because 86 is when we started doing it.
Yeah, so Ricky, you were still racing motocross and supercross and stuff back then. Could you imagine having to go through a Baja 1000 with the limited amount of tools that they had back in the day?
Oh no, I did. Because when I did that, it was 92 or 93. I think it was 92. When I did the 500, and I went down there with Larry Ragland, and we just drove, and we used AAA maps, how to get from place to place, and his memory was so good that you just remembered everything. There was no GPS. There was no. You just had to know where you were going, and the little score markings really helped out. And as BFG came out with the pit books, and so that let you know where the roads, where you got up a certain kilometer, turned in, and how far it was to get to the race course and stuff like that. Those were lifesavers for for racers. And if you were lucky enough, if you were fortunate enough to get one of those books, you held on to it very, very tightly.
Yeah, and
because, as I said, it was the big deal.
those are what we're showing on the camera right now. I know you can't see it, but we're showing one of these official Course Mapper pit books that they have here. In fact, on the back of the back cover, it says Arciero Winery right on the back, too. It's crazy.
Yeah, RJ, what he's holding up is the Score issued course notes.
Oh, okay, notes.
From prior, before the race. This is what they sent you with all the tulips. And that's all we had. That's all. I mean, and that was an improvement over what it replaced, which was nothing.
Exactly.
And so what I brought is some of the maps that I made and how we got to start at a BFG stuff. He hasn't seen the.
Let's see one of the ones that you made. This stuff is Ricky. This stuff is phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen any of this stuff, but it's so cool for me to hold on to, and I'm calling them artifacts, but the 1990 Baja 500.
Yeah. Now let me show you something here. Patience, Ricky. We'll be right back.
So
Ricky, Bob, he's talking about them like they're petroglyphs here.
Well, they are. I just don't want to get a
they
paper
really
cut.
are. I mean, they're so insanely cool, Ricky. You have no idea how much of a smile I have on my face.
Ricky talked about the Auto Club maps, and that's really what the basis of this was. That's how I did it. I used to make my mapping, use Auto Club maps, and then I used World Air charts, aeronautical charts. And so every sticker and color you see there is an Avery label that I would stick onto the page, label, and keep going down, and made the whole map that way. And then I'd go back and I'd color them in. This was the first time that I turned it over to BFG. I did all the mapping. I did all the computations, and then they spent their money having it printed with real ink instead of two guys sitting at a table with highlighters.
When I hear this stuff, like, this blows me away because it's so much different now. Like when you did your first Baja 500, Ricky, and you said it was 92, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
what was the tools that you had at your leisure?
Nothing. I had a map, and I just remembered. Larry and I would go out and we would drive all day, and we would talk, and he would go, and so we would talk about stuff, and so then we would get when we're done. He goes, "Remember we were talking about old girlfriends and blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "You remember that rancho and this and that," and so you remembered the course, and that was the thing. Your co-driver wasn't telling you left and right. He wasn't telling you anything.
No.
So what I would do is if there was really, really bad danger spots, I would put a piece of duct tape on the dash and I would write the mileage. And that was my, that was my thing, just so remember those the ones that can kill you. Yeah. Other than that, drive what you can see and go as fast as you go.
Yeah. Well, Ricky, you've done this too. In the early days, we used to pre-run a course, and we'd only try and remember certain parts of it. Like we would learn about from Rod Hall. Watch where water goes. If you're going through cross grain, you're going across the water.
Right.
It's not there. If you're all of a sudden smooth, you're going uphill or downhill.
Right.
And then in Baja, when you go from smooth and all of a sudden it's dark, you can't see what's going on, and you go through a little patch of rocks, you just come to the bottom of something and you're going back up. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That would be gnarly to understand that, especially for a dirt bike guy.
Well, but you use all the sensory stuff you got. You got your bodometer. You got your hands.
Yeah.
You tell for vibration. You can smell things. Different foliage smells differently. You went down with your nose open, your eyes open, your brain open.
Ricky, what's the difference? The biggest difference between now and then?
Now it feels like you're in a parking lot. Baja feels small because you know where you're at all times. If you watch Dust to Glory, you hear them say to Andy McMillan when he's a kid, he's like, I think I'm lost. They say, trust your GPS. And I can remember the first time that I used GPS on a bike, and I was down it got really foggy, and I was down in the silt, down past San Juanico, anyway, down by Constitution. Anyways, I was like, man, if I just have, wait a minute. And I had a small GPS with a track and the little triangle. And then I knew, once I saw that, then I remembered where I was. And then I even remember little shortcuts that I could go. And I was in the fog so bad, I couldn't see 20 feet in front of me. But then having that, if I didn't have that, I would still be down there. And that was 15 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, I would have been so lost because, as you come to the highway, there's all these fires, and I'm riding around from fire to fire. I can't see any course markings or anything. And then all of a sudden, I'm asking spectators, "Where's the track? Where's the track?" And they're going, "There, there, there." And I forgot that I had a small GPS on the handlebar. And so now with that, I mean, I went down there with Nico, my co-driver, and Gus's co-driver, and we would go all day, and every day he had over 300 markings. He would be in there for a couple of hours marking all the different stuff that I did. And that was for one day. And then the next day, another 300, and then another 300. So he's telling me all of these things along the way. But it's not easy, but knowing the biggest comfort that I had, knowing where I was, because there were so many times, and Bob, I know you felt this, when you're like, I don't know where I'm at, and you're lost, and it's scary.
Yeah.
You don't think you're going to die. You're like, I have no idea where I'm at right now. And then all of a sudden something comes up, like on the crossover road. I remember I was on a bike and I didn't know where I was. And there's a couple cement vados right before you get to the end. I'm like, holy shit, I'm here already.
Yeah.
Like, well, wow. I can't believe it. And just completely losing track of where you are that was what it was like without a GPS. I think the story to that is from Ivan Stewart. He's got some great ones. Bob, who was the lady that he used to race with?
Charlotte Corral. She taught us a lot about how to win races. That woman was tough.
So,
well, you tell your story. Sorry, I got all excited.
No. But so he's racing with Charlotte. They're racing. They've had some downtime. He's just racing his ass off, and all of a sudden the sun's coming up. He slams on the brakes, and Charlotte goes, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
He goes, "The sun's on the right. It's supposed to be on the left."
We're going the wrong way.
They got completely spun around. Didn't know where they were, following track, and next thing you know, sun's coming up on the right. That means you're headed north. And that's the thing. And then you hear the thing about Jay and Robert out there, just going from camp to camp and trying to find stars to do all the different things. And, it was a different time. The big silt below San Ignacio. Bob, you remember that, right?
Gee, many Christmas. The silt beds and the silt bed was high and the tide pools were low. High road, low road.
Well, that scared the crap out of me every year. And so, and I didn't have GPS when I first started riding bikes. I would come down into that, and if you were lucky, you had a moon, and I would go, okay. So for hypothetical, the moon is to my left. When I get out of here, the moon better be at my left. If I'm not, then I'm on the wrong way, because there were so many different roads through there. And Bob knows this. That you could do. You keep the moon and certain stars, and you don't sit there and race watching them. But when you go into some gnarly stuff, you find them when you get out the other side.
Boy, Ricky, I got to learn in the stars and the moon in the nighttime the hard way. Exactly what you described happened to Mike Randall and I. We got bad lost and thought we found our way. We were headed out. There's a white hard pack. I was saying to him, white hard pack. Let's go. Turned out that white was the salt crust on top of the mud marsh.
Oh.
And we had a big old Class 4 Jeep Honcho with a big old 401 in it. We made about halfway across before it got us to the axles. It took them 2 days to find us.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and we didn't know where we were.
Did you find a village or something?
No, we had to stick with the truck.
Oh, shit, man.
And radio every hour for 2 minutes and, all that crapola. But that's what triggered the BFG maps. And that's what triggered me swearing after that, I will never, ever not know where I am any day, any night in Baja California.
Dude.
That's where I learned to read the stars.
Necessity by design, Ricky.
Yep.
Well, in the November sky, the constellation Orion is up there. And he scabbard for his sword points not due southeast, but southeast enough. So if you see that, that's southeast. And Mike Randall and I were in a silt bed just south of Jesus Maria with Ricky, it had to be 4 or 5 guys. And we're all doing donuts, figuring we know where we're going, just make it a bigger mess. Finally, everybody stopped. they talked, and of course everybody's got an opinion. It's this way, it's that way, it's the other way. And I looked up, I found my Orion. I said, Mike, there's the sword. That's southeast. If that's southeast, we got off course about 300 yards over yonder. Let's get in the go. Let's go. And we got it. We got La Paz. They stayed in that silt bed and argued all night long. And Judy Smith was one of them.
Oh, man. That's pretty intense, man. Hey, Ricky, so let's change the subject just a second here. So what has been your favorite moment before you started racing off-road that made you want to get into it?
I remember when I was a little kid, my parents took me down to the Baja 500 in the 70s, and it was just such a crazy deal. And then also watching on any Sunday, and when they had Malcolm racing in a car, and he said, "Oh, I can't catch the motorcycles." That movie made me want to be a motorcycle racer, but that also planted a seed that I always wanted to race Baja, because it was just such a different world from what I was used to. Controlled tracks, and I like bigger, faster tracks. Like, I really enjoyed motocross more than supercross because I like going fast.
Or maybe because you grew up in
then when I got the opportunity. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I grew up in SoCal, and I was down in the desert down here in Ocotillo or Glamis or, Placer City or stuff like that. I was doing that stuff all the time. And growing up in El Cajon, as Bob remembers, that was like the race capital. Chaneth was there.
Yeah.
Rancho Shock there. I mean, there was all different kinds. That was kind of the East County San Diego was the mecca for off-roading. So Walker Evans, or not Walker was from Rivers, but Ivan was from there.
Yep.
Johnson's Bug Machine was there. They were real close friends of mine. Yep. Santee. So yeah,
Jim Coe's out there.
Yeah, Jim Coe was there. I mean, everybody was out there. So, I kind of wanted to go into stock car racing and stuff like that, just because of the challenge, and I felt it was a bigger challenge. But honestly, I've been so blessed to still be 57 years old, racing, with the fastest guys in the world, and racing off road, because it's different every time you run.
Yeah.
Like every time. I was just out in the truck the other day shaking it down for San Felipe for Gus and I. And I'm like, wow, I mean, this truck is 1,000 horsepower, all-wheel drive. It's just a bullet. And it challenges you as a man, as a driver, as everything, to be on top of your game. And then when you go down there, having the open course and the challenges that go along with it, it does scare me that I might hurt somebody, or I could get hurt myself. But there's just something so raw about it, because there's not that much of that left. I mean, every little kid wears a helmet on their bicycle now. It's not like it was before. And Baja has that feeling of being a little loose and on the edge.
I know what I liked about Baja right away. It hit me is that in these races, you go somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you go places.
Yeah. And it's not like one destination; it's like 100, right? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah. That is crazy to think about. When I hear you guys talking about it, it just makes me want to be down there. Like, I wish we were already there for San Felipe. I know it's next week, but still,
you want to be early?
I know, right? Ricky, so you are going down to San Felipe out here?
Yes. So we tested the truck yesterday, and it's phenomenal. Javi and the crew, everyone's done a great job. I'm going to qualify and start for Gus, do the first half of the race. He'll do the second half. And then we'll see how we line up for the 500. More than likely he'll start the 500, but we have a good plan. So I'll be heading down there Friday, start my pre-running. I'll be there all week, and then qualify on Thursday.
Sweet, man. All right. Well, we'll see you out there pre-running, dude. I appreciate you coming on the show. We're going to have Rory Ward and Jeff Furrier come on here in just a little bit, man. So you enjoy your time in the desert before you get down to San Felipe, and hopefully we can all eat some tacos together.
You got it, brother. I'll see you on the beach at the Malecon.
Thank you.
See you, Ricky.
See you guys.
I love the fact that Ricky was able to call in. Kudos to him for being so available to us. It was really cool, man. I know he's a busy guy. I'm going to get Jeff Furrier and Rory Ward on the horn here.
Right.
But what other show and tell do we have for the audience today?
I could give you a comparison. This is the 91 500.
Okay.
And this
want to show this camera right here?
Yeah, the camera's still alive. So
yeah,
let me stand up so I can do it.
It's that little tiny one right there. The one on the left.
The GoPro,
little
okay.
GoPro one, yeah.
So essentially, what I want to point out is on these the maps themselves, the colors, the maps themselves. Every one of these little guys is an Avery sticker. And all I really did is I bought a box of Avery stickers and wrote them down. Stick them on the map, wrote a note in them, and circled them, and went on like that from all the notes of where I'd been on our pre-run. Then I'd come back and make a master, one big master, and I'd color them in. And I did that only for me and me and Randall Racing, because we got lost, and that wasn't a good thing.
It's so crazy for me to see that stuff, dude. Like it's phenomenal because that's what you guys use. All right.
Yeah. So BFG printed the map, and that got it out to the thousands of people. Which is, thank goodness.
That was the catalyst, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I couldn't keep them to myself forever because it could help people. They help people on the highway with safety stuff.
I can only imagine.
So this is the 91 map. So that's 1991. 2001.
So let me introduce our guests that are on the line now.
Right,
so we were going to use Instagram Live. Unfortunately, it didn't allow us to. It kicked us off. But I have Jeff Furrier from UPR Offroad Racing and Rory Ward of Racers Only. We have them both on the line. What's up, guys?
Hey, George. Hey, George. Hey, Bob.
Hey. hey to both of you. Are we going to talk cattle here?
We should, right?
All the hay.
So, first of all, I appreciate you guys being available on the phone as well. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we've been having some pretty good fun tonight. I've been learning a lot about the lineage or the history of off-road. Bob's been obviously a Bible showing us some of these maps and things that he created with BFG to help the drivers get from point A to point Z on the map and successfully. And unfortunately, the catalyst to that was Bob sitting out in the desert for 2 days,
or more.
But you guys also have a lot of experience, both of you guys, in the off-road world. Jeff, you spent some time in the on-road world, but most of your stuff has come from the off-road world, and your heritage has come from the off-road world with dirt bikes and vehicles and desert racing and, Rory's as well, man. So I'm really happy to have all you guys on the show together to talk about some of this stuff.
Yep, me too. I'm not sure you need much more than Bob there, but we'll see what we can add.
You know what, Jeff? You could address that might fit into a little something I have planned. Is
that right?
Well, you remember?
Yeah, I might fit into a little dress.
Jeff, we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. I don't know if the cell phone connection is bad or good here. Try to get off Wi-Fi and see if that helps.
Anyway, Jeff, you have a tire background. This I know.
Yeah.
You remember the days in the early 70s when the BF Goodrich Company was such a tiny little group compared to Goodyear. They outspent us like 10-1. And we did the blimp campaign. The other guys, do you remember that?
Yeah, I was about to. Yeah, the other guys.
The other guys, yeah. To tell George about this is that Goodyear has a blimp, right? BFG didn't have a blimp, but BFG didn't have any money either. So what we did is we turned it on them. We bought a Super Bowl ad when they were like $200,000 before you could go broke. Bought a Super Bowl ad, and it was a football game, I think, a line. Wasn't it a football game, Jeff?
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah, one month, they're getting down, ready to hike. And one lineman looks at the other lineman and he says, "Hey, look, the Goodrich blimp." The guy looks up, bang, hits him, and that was the joke. And so there was this whole deal about the Goodrich blimp, and we made plenty of fun of it. So I got something for you, George.
Let's see it.
Given the stuff that you did at the Mint, I wanted to give this to you here.
Oh, it's a blimp pilot. So Jeff and Rory, he's giving me an award. It says BF Goodrich has awarded this certificate to George Hamill for successfully completing the BF Goodrich Lighter Than Air Flight School quality to be licensed as a blimp pilot.
Nice.
And well, look at the last thing.
Yeah, so I'm going to hold this up, and then so everybody else can see what we're looking at, and I'm going to read the last part. Dual instruction, 15 minutes. Instrument, 10 minutes. Takeoffs, 1. Landings, 1. Gas bag filling, 18 hours. Witness and certified by Benjamin Franklin Goodrich and Patrick Seaross. Oh, that's hilarious, man. Pretty cool to see that.
That's pretty cool. I've spent a lot of time filling tires. Never had one of those.
I don't know if why it's happening, but it seems like we got a really bad spotty connection with you guys. Let me see if it'll be a little bit easier. Rory, do you mind if I give you a call back? I'm going to talk with Jeff, and then I'll give you a call back, see if just having one of you guys on helps.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm breaking up at all either. So
Let me give Jeff a call real quick, and then I'll give you a buzz back, Rory. Thank you.
you got it.
Yeah, so we're going to see if we can get some of these technical difficulties worked out. We really had a problem with Instagram, so I apologize to you guys that are watching the show and that are listening to the show online as well, or excuse me, on iTunes as well.
So who can still see us? Facebook?
No, everybody can see us on Facebook and on YouTube. They just can't see Jeff's face. So, Jeff Furrier, what's up, man?
I'm here. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, way better.
yeah, it sounds a lot better. So we're gonna just have a little bit of fun with you, and then we'll switch over and we'll get Rory on the line. Sorry, you guys can't talk to each other. We know you're best friends.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll catch up.
So a couple of the things that we were talking about when we came back from commercial break, we showed a few of the cars that Rory has worked on and that you guys have actually worked on together. But let's give a little bit of a backstory because I want this show to be a little bit more about off-road heritage and the history of off-road than just building cars. But on the side of cars used to be a lot different than they are nowadays. But Bob gave us a little bit of a preface by saying speeds haven't changed that much in the racing environment, whether it's track conditions or whatever it is. But what are some of the cars that you drove back in the day that were the most fun cars getting down the peninsula?
Well, so really the first time I went on a whole peninsula run in a car that I owned wasn't until Nora. So I wasn't able to run any of those early races. I was doing other things and working and trying to figure out how to pay for it. So really my first peninsula run was with Rory in 2011.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think most of my history, I was involved and I was racing dirt bikes and, had cars and was building cars. And in the 80s was working with other teams and a local guy, Tucson guy named Jim Travis, who really got me involved. And he was the one who actually bought Mark Stahl's single-seater from Mark Stahl. So that was actually the first car that I really even, off-road race car that I actually ever even drove. But would never really had a peninsula run under my belt till, 25 years later.
So you clipped off. I mean, you bit off a big one on that one, Jeff, because not only was it your first peninsula run, it's a single seater. You didn't have help.
Yeah. At all.
Yeah. And the course wasn't marked. So
other than that,
yeah. So we actually, we actually did pretty well, all things considered. We built that car in 8 months. I'll just unwind it a little bit. So that, like I said, Jim Travis bought the car from Mark Stahl. The car had won 3 Baja 1000s, 2 overalls. It was an Arizona car, and then I had actually helped with the car in the 80s, and he did some of the Lou Peralta events and, a lot of the Arizona stuff. But, and then the car was sold again and again a couple other times. And it stayed in Arizona. So I kept my tabs on it. Always knew where it was. And, since it was, I always had an appreciation for the car because it was really, I think at that time, was something I really wanted, but it was just as far as the cost of racing a car, I could barely afford 2-stroke oil. So, it was just 1 million miles away for me. So, but but I always wanted one, and so I always kept tabs on it. And then when I had the opportunity to actually buy it back, it was in a box like most of these things, but we really have most of the original parts. And then Rory and I went to a NORA race and decided we need to build a car. I told him about the stall car, and he definitely wanted to help. And we sort of partnered up, and he kept me accountable because, me, George, I'd rather, if it's something fun, unfortunately it's in second place in my world, and I'll put work first. But when someone's holding me accountable to finish something like that, I'll do it. And Rory definitely held me accountable and was a huge help, and, built a bunch of the car, and, we did it in, it's unbelievable, in 8 months, because now I think my last car took me 3 years, the Budweiser truck. But
yeah, totally. Some of these restorations have been phenomenal for me to be a part of witnessing. And we'll talk with Rory a little bit. We're showing, you can't see it, but we're showing that car on screen right now on some of these camera angles that Rory sent and that you also sent.
Yeah. So that was just a ton of fun. And so getting to the Peninsula Run part of that, NORA, the course is not marked at all. They give you GPS, which is a huge advantage. But honestly, we showed up there and had no idea really what we were doing. We were just so excited to be there. Literally, the car went back and forth between Tucson and Bullhead City with both of us working on it. And I'd never actually driven the car until I drove it in the parking lot, I think, of the Colonial.
Which is in Mexicali, George.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the race, yeah.
Yeah, in Mexicali. So I think I drove it in the parking lot, and then drove it to the starting line. And
I can't believe
actually Mark Stahl started. So I'm going to pass on let's Rory tell you the story about the bull ring, which is, he does a better job of telling it than me when we just got the car done and they took pictures of all the Chenwas that were there. But anyway, we got, we showed up, we were super excited to have the car together. We didn't really understand how the timing worked. And I think I left the first drivers meeting. I talked to Sean Hogland, who Bob knows well. And Sean basically told me, he said, he gave me a couple of tips, which I didn't really understand. And really, basically, he's like, hey, you just can't be late, which I didn't really understand exactly how it all meant, so, or how it all worked. So we would show up at the starting line and we'd just hang out, right? But we would start late. He said, no, Sean told us, you just can't be early. We're like, oh, okay, we can do that. But we would be an hour late starting. You know what I mean? We were losing all this time and during the race, but we kept making up the time during the stages. And then late in the race, I don't know, someone mentioned to us, man, you guys are doing pretty good. You guys might even win. And we're just like, what? And then so at that point, we decided, since we were in contention, we'd start paying attention. We quit eating tacos and drinks. Yeah, and then it's serious. Well, if you're running around at the back, you don't care as much. But when you have an opportunity to win, then I think after the first couple of days, we figured out the timing, and then it turned into a race, of course.
It's funny to hear the stories, like what Jeff's saying, what you said at your guys' first races and stuff. I know that racing is always serious, and every time you put on your helmet, it's a serious event, right? But it's different than it is now. Like, it's completely different when you don't know where you're going, where your heading is, and all of these different things. Like, to me, I would have loved to have been a part of that because I'm such a fanatic about exploration, and to me, it would have felt like that. Well,
it's different when you're exploring and you're hauling ass.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're trying not to hurt yourself. So like Ricky said with the duct tape, so Nori, you get a road book, and I'm in a single seater. And so you can't really read the road book. So you just have to write down where the dangers are, really. I wrote down where the big dangers were on a piece of paper on the visor, and I would just look up. And what's funny is on Laguna Salada, the first one was at 60 miles on the first day. I don't know, maybe that was the second year because Mark drove the first day. But we would write down the the mileage. You'd write down the dangers. But if you take a wrong turn, your mileage is off. And so the dangers are in different spots. So you just can't even compute it. So you just can't even compute it, right? You know what I mean? So, but once you get better at it, you figure all that stuff out. But
yeah, exactly.
honestly,
Richard Harding, what's up, man? He says Bob's a cool guy too.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
So Bob may not remember this, but at that first Nora and that single seater, we came into Bay of LA and Bob was working the start finish line, and he was handing out beers.
And
I'm pretty sure I'm sure it was the first, and tequila. And tequila.
I like this guy, Jeff.
And tequila. I think we were so happy to be there. I think maybe had a couple too many of those, and then you got to figure out how to get the race car to the hotel. So
you're parked in front of it, but you don't know.
And the single seater, you can't have a designated driver either, so it makes it even more complicated. But,
so what are some of the things that you think of? I mean, like, I love hearing these stories. I mean, like, these things are so meaningful, right? And you guys were at the same place and you got to share all these experiences. I mean, even just sharing tequila and beers. I mean, like, that right there just shows the family, the environment that we were talking about before. But Jeff, when you think of how you got into off-roading and what the true beginning of your passion for the off-road motorsport, like, do you remember what drew you into it and, like, maybe seeing it for the first time, like those kinds of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely remember it. So, like a lot of people, my first exposure to it was on Any Sunday, the movie. And I remember the movie theater that I saw it in Tucson at Speedway in Wilmot. It's Cineworld, and I remember it was one of the first big theaters that 5 screens or whatever. And I was, I don't know, kindergarten, first grade, something like that. My dad took me and a couple of my brothers to that movie. And then after that, I think like a lot of guys, we'd all fight over who got to be Malcolm Smith and when we were riding our mini bikes in the desert. But so that, I think at first was probably my first exposure to it. And then my dad was really good about, taking us to some of the events. We went to the first Super Bowl motocrosses. We went to some of the early Mickey Thompson events when they had motorcycles and and cars and buggies and trucks and all that. So I remember seeing all that, just all of those events. Plus my dad was buddies with Dick Seapack because they were both Armstrong tire dealers.
Yeah.
And he and Dick Seapack actually got us into the off-road business, which is where Deseret started. So my brother Mike actually and my dad went to probably Southgate, I think is where the Seapack store was, picked up a pickup truck full of, at that time, Seapack was mostly camping gear and 1115 True Tracks tires. But anyway, and then they started in that, and then Dick and my dad were buddies, and Dick would come over and tell stories about Jeeping in Baja, as he would call it, and talk about some of the early races that he was involved with, and from there, I just couldn't get enough of it. I was, reading the magazines and hanging the pictures up in my room, and just from then on, I just always had a love for it, was super attracted to it, and really I've never completely gotten away from it. I've strayed, but never. It's always been there, I've done some other racing, but
so it's funny when you can't see us obviously because Instagram is being a sucker, but both Bob and I have a massive smile on our faces. We're dancing around in our heads because of the stuff that you're talking about is resonating so much with us. And I know it's even for the kids that are new to side-by-side racing and things like that. Like the feeling that you get when you have that goal and want to be a part of something and to race or to do all these things is the same no matter what age you are. It's so cool to hear the stories.
And the excitement when you realize it's finally happening, and that only happens once.
Yep.
It's like when you realize it's like, oh my gosh, this is what I used to think about.
Yeah, dude, I'm here.
Yes.
Well, there's nothing. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing like it. And it's in our racing industry, and I'm in the industry, right? And so I work in off-road isn't the biggest part of what we do in the racing department. And so I talk to people, in oval track and NASCAR and, endurance racing and just all over. and I know a lot of them, and they know I have an interest in off-road racing. They'll ask me about it, and then you try to explain it, and
Yeah.
it's crazy because you can't even hardly explain it to other racers who don't race off-road. Like, you can talk to a guy who's, raced some of the biggest races in the world, and you just can't explain. It's like being at a freaking, neighborhood block party, and someone asks you what your hobbies are, and you tell them, and then they say, you mean like dune buggies? And then you just like, yeah, dune buggies. And then
I remember being in high school. I remember being in high school, and people are like, "You're a dirt bike racer? What the fuck is that?" And you're just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah." Like, they only knew football and whatever was cool in high school, so I can totally get that, because off-road is even further down the line.
I would try and explain to some of them about the takeoffs and landings aspect.
Yeah,
but they didn't get that either.
No.
Yeah. So, but honestly, that's part of the allure of it. You know what I mean? It's like, that's just so cool about it, but now I think you get some of it, a better feel for it with social media. And a lot of these guys are just doing a great job, showing it, on YouTube. And, it's, if you're a motorsports guy, your YouTube algorithm, if you're any kind of motorsports, is now picking up some sort of off-road racing.
Yeah. 100%.
So those guys are starting to see it, whether they understand it or they think it's all, just a Monster Energy guy or whatever. They still can sort of get a feel for it, but
right, and they can connect with it if they want to.
Yeah.
And so basically what I'm hearing here right now is he's saying, thank you, George, for having the Dirt Life show and bringing this out.
That's what I'm picking up. Yeah.
But yeah, Jeff, I do understand what you're saying, because I get a lot of that on my social media now too. Like, even if I don't want the dirt bikes or the stuff to come up, it pops up anyways, and I'm just like, oh wow, that's cool. I never thought of that, or I never seen that before.
Right.
So, but it was way different when you talk about the lineage of it. I mean, like, for me, I would be so dang nervous if I went to the starting line with some of the stories that you and Bob are telling, like having to navigate the way that you guys did, looking at the stars or the direction of the sun. Like, I always felt like I was good. Like, if I went to a destination, I knew where I was. It was like that whole inner sense that you have, like a dog or a cat, right? You always know where home is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this is not like that. Doesn't help you as much as you think when you have to travel that distance, because it's so far. So for me, it's still amazing that you guys were able to accomplish those things. And more than I do, Jeff, that Bob was integral part of coming up with what today is the BFG pit system, the navigation portion of it. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about that subject. Do you know any of that stuff, Jeff?
Yeah. Well, enough to be dangerous.
We embrace danger here, son.
But at the same time, I mean, we all grew up like, well, I know you did, like, you left your house and you know what I mean? You didn't have navigation. You can get home. Right. But I don't know. I think that's just part of the adventure. When you're road racing or even if you're motocross, you're going around. Motocross is different because the corner could be different every time you go around with a rut. But like, if you're on pavement or most other types of racing, you're going around the same corner, 50 times, 100 times, whatever. And it changes with the sun and the amount of rubber on the track and, tire temperatures, stuff like that. But you learn the corner. I mean, the basic, the apex doesn't change that much. The distance doesn't change that much. Your braking points don't change that much, but you're in an off-road race. And even, these guys are pre-running for a week at a time. Yep. Even if you're first up the line, you still don't know what the course looks like, right. So, like, off-road racing is just, it's insane, really. I mean, I can't believe we can still even do it.
Yeah. That's something that baffles me too.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I don't know, it just shows the passion of the people that keep it going.
Yeah.
But it's just totally different.
And talking about the passion, well, Bob had a lot of passion because he sat out in the fucking desert for 2 days before he came out with it, trying to help BFG to come up with these maps and stuff. I mean, like.
So I'm thinking, Bob, if he had a choice, he wouldn't have been sitting there.
Yeah, no shit.
But Mike Randall's a good dude. I'm sure they had a lot of good a lot of good times out there.
Do people drop you off snacks, or you were eating pitayas off the couches?
You know what? There was another stock race car about 100 yards over off there, and those two guys got out and they walked.
What?
Never saw them again. Went over to kind of check out their race car and found three things that were really good idea. We kept them.
Really?
Their battery, we needed their battery, and they left their sandwiches behind. Thank you. They weren't new sandwiches, but they were good sandwiches.
That's hilarious, man. Dude, to be stuck out in the desert for that long would scare the shit out of me, man. But yeah, so still kudos to you. I want to talk about it a little bit more, Bob. The development of that program that BFG started, it was necessity by demand, right? Like,
yeah, it was selfish. Then it went to necessity. Selfish for me. That getting stuck out there. Well, my wife nearly threw me out of off-road racing, and I tell you what, she's got the power.
Well, it's because she was scared she wasn't going to see her husband again. Man.
Yeah, I mean, it was justified. And so I said, well, Bob, you just can't let that happen again.
Yeah.
And that's when I started figuring out what could I do and how can I do. And I would beg rides to pre-run down there. The guys I raced with wouldn't pre-run them. The Randalls hardly ever left town.
Right.
And so I'd beg rides with guys, and I'd take my maps, and we'd chase this road and go that road. And over time, I got to myself a pretty good set of data so that I could get into somebody's race car and call the race and control the race and the chase teams from the race car. I could tell them to go up to kilometer 171.5. You'll see a road. Get up to it. It should take you 20 minutes to get there. Don't rush. We won't be there for an hour.
The amount of work that entails is phenomenal.
Well, it wasn't work. It was fun.
Well, okay, I get that, but still, man, that's a lot of man hours.
Yeah, I'd never thought of it like that. I just thought it was extra miles.
Look at this guy, Jeff.
Well, I'm pretty good at wasting time. But it was really good for me. It got us races. And then I realized, because I'd make a few extra copies and hand them to guys on Yokohamas and guys I knew.
Because buddies.
Yeah, it was my stuff. It wasn't BFG stuff until I realized these things really helped out.
Yeah, it needed to get distributed.
Yeah, and so BFG didn't want me doing it anyway. So
I'll tell you that the BFG support has really just made it possible for so many more people to race off-road. So I just can't even imagine, like you just don't even know how important that is. I mean, because really there's people that just couldn't race without BFG support.
Right.
I mean, let alone the great product they make and and all of that. Like, if you just consider the amount of people that can come from all over, they come from all over the country, right? And who can show up with 10 pit trucks? You know what I mean? And the amount of people, and I wouldn't take for granted the amount of lives it's probably saved with people not now having to force people all the way down the peninsula or get to that one weird spot and they don't have enough trucks. And, hey, what about you, right, Bob? I mean, that's where that came from. I mean, so
I even have an example, like a modern day example is that, like, there's a lot of new UTV teams, and this goes for the trucks and buggies and stuff too, but that don't use BFG tires, but still utilize those services to be able to pit and to be able to have the extra help. And they're doing this because they're so passionate about going down and racing at these events. And they wouldn't be able to do it without it.
They're also pretty frugal. Right. I mean, if to populate 9 pits for yourself,
right,
you're going to need at least 2 people per pit, at least. Or there's 18 humans you're feeding and housing.
Yep.
Plus you're buying your gas and everything else. Whereas if you're part of the BFG pit network, you do all you can to get your race car to that pit, and everything else is pretty well okay.
That's pretty phenomenal. What were you going to mention, Jeff?
Well, and if you're a new guy, I mean, you're going to show up at a BFG pit, and there's going to be a whole bunch of guys there with a bunch of experience that are, a lot of them might be saying, hey, you're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? It's like, like new guys show up and bucket listers. And I don't know. I can't imagine how many people I've talked out of going and racing the Baja 1000 or racing the Baja 500 who just call us on the phone looking for advice. You know what I mean? And they're starting from such a deficit and they have no idea because they saw it on TV. But so one of those guys gets down there and he ends up in a BFG pit, and someone that Bob trained standing there, and this guy, has no spares, 4 tires about to go flat, running on 3 cylinders, you know what I mean? And he's about to head out at midnight, and try to make a checkpoint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you're not going anywhere, man. You know what I mean? Or they can't hold them, but they can give people they're going to give people advice, and that's the stuff. Those are the intangibles that that an experienced guy down there just would never know. I mean, then there's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of good people.
Yeah, 100%.
Doing that type of work, right? Saving people from serious danger.
And saving their dream of finishing a race like that. We had a comment from Kane Schmid come in and says, "I won the 1996 Baja 1000 with 1 chase truck and BFG pits in Class 5."
There you go.
Yeah, perfect example, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure 85 was a loop race. But I bet they had to go San Felipe.
1996 is what it said.
It's 96. Excuse me. I don't remember.
Did I not say 96? But yeah, he said it was the 96 Baja 1000. So
yeah, but I mean he had to probably go Cia Cortez to Pacific side at least one time.
It across, yeah.
And when you don't have chase guys, that's dicey.
Man, it's so cool. And a lot of that stuff that we're talking about now, you were integral in being able to establish that support system.
Yes, but it took giving it to BFG to spend money on it.
Right.
They produced thousands where I could produce maybe 15.
Right.
And because I wore my little self out highlighting things, it was the right thing to do. It just made it easier for others to go race safe.
But this is exactly what we're talking about in this show, Jeff, is the history and the evolution of where off-road is and where it used to be. Like those little milestones. I mean, Bob talks about it real humble and as it was easy for him because he was passionate about it. But those are monumental things for the industry.
Absolutely. I mean, it drove the industry.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, like manufacturers, and enthusiasts, right? I mean, it drove the industry. And I think it'd be real questionable. And I'm sure I doubt they're making any money on that. And I know like we do a fair amount of business with those guys, and I know it's not easy getting money. And I'm sure it's a fight internally, to keep that program going.
Right.
I'm sure and I have no firsthand knowledge, but I can just only imagine from the things that we go through, how big of a deal that is for BFG to put that on. And, they may think, hey, that, people look at these companies like they're big companies, but these big companies have to make money. And, if those guys pull the plug someday, it's gonna be a problem. So
to me, that seems like I get the same understanding. Like you guys just said, the budget racer that goes down to finish a Baja race, whether it's 500, 1,000, whatever it is.
Yeah,
those guys have the passion to get down there. They're budget racers. They might they might not even have enough money to get back home, kind of thing, right? And BF Goodrich has that same amount of passion to be able to supply these same things.
I was an employee for 18 or 19 years.
So just a short amount of time.
Yeah. I left to start my own enterprise 28 years ago. And so I feel I can say this with honesty and bluntness. The thing about BFG that impresses me and did when I was a Corvette guy and they found me racing my Corvette, that's how I got introduced, is yes, it's about the tire to a degree, but they've never made it primarily about the tire.
Right.
And they make it primarily about those pesky humans.
Yeah.
They've always been focused on the people. Even today, you talk to some of these guys that are really the tallest hogs at the trough, and they get it. A guy named Harold Phillips, he says, we BF Goodrich he's talking about, we enable people to have fun. We bring fun to them.
Yep.
And they spend money on that. That makes me glad to wear the shirt or the hat or whatever they're going to toss at me. I don't know, Jeff. Maybe I'm getting too commercial.
No, I think you're hitting on a point that's really valid here is the passion for the sport and the humans.
Yeah.
Well, without them, it'd be difficult. But I'll tell you, and without turning this into a BFG commercial, because honestly, they wouldn't give me tires for the honcho. I was kind of offended. So, because I needed to do a bunch of justifying on why that was a good deal for him, and I understood it. And to be honest with you, I bought BF Goodrich tires, and they're black, and I turned them around Blackwell because I wasn't going to advertise them for them because I'm paying for them. But that said, I'm in the tire business, and I bought those tires because I think it's the best tire, and they do so much for the sport, you know. So without those guys, you know what I mean? I think it'd be difficult. So when you're thinking about people who give back to the industry, and when you're thinking about buying tires, you know, think about those guys. And to be honest with you, we don't make it when, you know, our company sells BF Goodrich tires, the margin's not real fat, but every once in a while when, you know, a friend or someone needs tires and they are asking me about them, it'd be easier to sell them the tires that have a lot more margin in them. But I know if I sell them a BFG, they're most likely I'm not going to hear back from them as they're dissatisfied with the tire. You know what I mean?
Well, and you're also
like, you'll make people happy.
And you're also supporting the human dream to finish our races too.
Yeah,
so.
well,
yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, let's get back.
But anyway,
we're going to talk to Rory in a little bit, so we'll keep you maybe for like 5 more minutes or so, Jeff.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
Let's kind of get back to the whole lineage and history of off-road. So we asked Ricky Johnson kind of the same question, and we're going to end this whole show tonight by asking Bob the same question too. Is, do you remember the time that like hooked you in to being so passionate about off-road racing?
Off-road car racing, man, I would have to say the initial hook was when I was a kid, like I mentioned, right? But probably the first hook was the first time I was actually in an off-road race car, which is I think 1980. It was actually, I think it was on my birthday in 1982, and I got a ride. I was in the right seat of a Class 2 car. And I think at that moment, I just knew that was just going to be in my life forever at that point. Right. So.
And see, those are monumental things to think about, you know, like for maybe a kid that hasn't ever sat in the passenger seat of a Class 2, or maybe he's only ridden side by side, or he's gotten to play a video game that's an off-road video game or something. Like, those are monumental things. But then, like, having that next level of passion, like for me, I played Ivan Stewart's off-road racing when I was a kid. I loved it, right? Me and all my friends would get to do it. And then the first time I got to sit in a side by side, or in my case, I got to test drive Casey Curry's Pro Light truck.
Oh boy!
Yeah,
I could not tell you the amount of feelings that ran through my body, my soul. I felt like I got touched by an angel, kind of thing. It was like a hallelujah moment, right? And I can just hear it in Jeff's voice when he's talking about it. Like, that's where it is. And I want to hear Bob's at the end of the show. That's so cool, man, because that passion never goes away.
Well, but there was a part of my life, right? I mean, that was like, you know, I remember I was with my ex-girlfriend who I married, who's still my wife, you know what I mean? And so, like, she was there, and like, she remembers that, and she remembers my passion. That's and cool. She still understands it. We actually got married at the Mint 400 in 1987.
Wow.
You'll like this, Bob. So it was after the race, and we were in a rental car paid for by General Tire, and our honeymoon was in Acapulco. It was a Michelin convention, so our honeymoon was paid for by Michelin. So it was perfect. And so she knew she was marrying a cheapskate at that point.
and a workaholic at the same time. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can be a cheapskate or you can just be thrifty. You choose.
No, but it's a lifestyle. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, it's a lifestyle, and I'm glad I found it early enough that I've been able to experience it for really my whole life, you know, at some level, right? I mean, you know, and I've been involved in the industry, which has been a blessing. And, you know, there's a few things I think I've done some good, and you met a lot of great people like, you know, Bob and Rory and you, of course, George. I mean, so it's really all of that. It's just that whole community that just really is like no other.
Yeah.
Right? because I'm involved in some other ones, right? In off-road racing, it's just a whole different deal.
And I like that Jeff's talking about it like this because he's really understanding, the family connection and stuff that we've talked about, Bob.
Sure.
But he's also done some really cool business stuff with it. And in fact, Jeff, I'm going to be at the shop on Thursday buying a seat pad from you to go down and pre-run in San Felipe. So I'll see you on Thursday. But to go further with that story is Jeff has had pit support at some of these big desert races. He's even helped the UTV guys with stuff. He's developing products to help the off-road racing more.
Excellent.
Bigger. I mean, all of the stuff that he does, he might not eat, sleep, and breathe off-road, but it sure feels like it when you look at all the stuff he's done.
Well, it's not my full-time, the off-road segment isn't my full-time job, but it's definitely my hobby and my passion. And I've been criticized internally about probably spending a little more too much time on one segment that, if you look at racing as a whole, I think is, I don't know. I know it used to be about 2%.
Yeah.
I mean, of the industry. I mean, it's just a tiny part of the industry. But we love it, so.
100%. And the cool thing about it is how many people you've touched during those times too. And we'll let you go here in a second. But, a personal story that I have with Jeff is that I went in as a complete newbie into off-road racing. I had a UTV and I did all this stuff. I go, all you do is sit down and turn the steering wheel, right? You just pin it. It's not a fucking dirt bike. Like, it should be easy, right? And he's like, no, dumb shit. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, and he's like, you have to have this centered, and to get in the cockpit, you do these things and make it so it's lined up, and it's going to be easier on your body if you have it situated this way. And all of these detailed things that he told me, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do any of that. He just thought and saw my passion and thought it was good to help me do it. And that's the way that off-road should and usually does work.
Took out a chunk of learning curve out of your future right there.
Not just that, but he was willing to do it. You know what I mean? Just like the BFG guys are willing to help the racers come through. Like, it's just a huge family, and it makes you feel so welcome and wanting to do these things. Because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't probably make it down the coast or down the peninsula.
Well, I don't know how many other people think this way, but Bauer's way all along my off-road world and career has always been, I never worried about giving it away. I think you can always give it away.
It'll pay you back.
It's never a debit on my account.
Right.
It's an investment in somebody else's. And I see that in action all the time in our off-road world.
I can agree with that 100%. I'm sure you can too, Jeff.
It's funny. I was just thinking, I agree with that. But when I was road racing and doing some other stuff where you could actually see a lap time change if you gave someone a tip on some kind of a setup or whatever, I would always lie. Yeah. But off-road racing, I don't.
Dirt bike racing, you definitely didn't want to give away your secrets either.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I remember asking people in the dirt, like going to the local motocross track and being like, what jetting are you running? Because the weather's like this. Yeah. It'd be like, I just drill that fucker out. And it'd be like, okay, jerk. Like, screw you.
You're still running jet?
Yeah.
We used to take a crayon and put phony tire pressures on our tires.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Works.
Oh, you guys. I'm not trusting you guys as far as I can throw you.
Not if we're competing for the same thing. I tell you.
Oh, but that's super cool, man. And I appreciate you helping me line up the show as well, Jeff, and kind of giving me a little bit of feedback on and understanding the lineage. I don't know if you heard us at the beginning of the show, but this has really intrigued me. All the stuff that you've shared with me over the years has been a godsend, first of all, but understanding how passionate people are and how cool the lineage in off-road is, I think we should probably see if we can do 2 or 3 shows per year that kind of go on the same basics of what we're talking about now. Have other people share stories, like we could have story time with Rob McCachran. We could have story time with Walker Evans, Jeff, and Rory, and all of these different things, because all of this stuff really needs to be brought to light. And I'm glad that we have a platform to do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a million miles of them.
That's true, right? Oh, man. Yeah. If we counted how many thousands and thousands of miles have been through the years down in the Baja Peninsula, we would probably be here for years.
So I'm going to take up a little more of Rory's time, but speaking of that, right, and Rob McCachran, and then I'll hang up. So I was at the PRI show and I ran into him. performance racing industry show in December. And it was right after the Mint 400 where Luke McMillan backed into him in that corner, I think, and tipped over.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But I didn't even know what to say to him. So I said, hey, congrats on the Baja 1000 win, even though he had won the Mint 400 since then. And he just looked at me like he knew exactly what I was saying.
Yeah.
And then he told me the story, right? And for 15 minutes, he told me the last probably 5 or 10 miles of the Mint 400, inch by inch, corner by corner. It was just unbelievable. And I just wish I could have recorded it. It was just insane. Like every bump, every detail, when he shifted, he was probably telling me his breaking points and then exactly what happened and how it happened. And, it was just unbelievable. Like
these are all things where you're going
the
through
retention.
Short trails, you're going 100 miles an hour, like all crazy stuff. Like how can he?
Oh, he's telling me where the bumps were. I doubt I'm giving away any of his secrets, but I mean, he's on the power line road and he knew where he was on the power line road by, I hit one bump and then I hit 2 bumps and he just knew everything, but inch by inch. And I'm just thinking, man, like this guy's racing off-road cars, but that's just genius, right? I mean, like who can do that? And I'm just sort of laughing internally going, this is unbelievable. But anyway, so I'm sure you'd have to have a lot of episodes, but hey, but Rory will be great. Make him tell you the boring story. He's super passionate. He's a real gift to the off-road, especially the vintage off-road industry, because he just knows so much about it and has just done such great cars. And, he keeps me in line a little bit, but
yeah, it's so cool to hear these.
He'll be good.
Like,
yeah, he'll be good.
Honestly, just hearing Jeff talk, and I'm sure we'll feel the same with Rory, like, and even with Amy, man, like, I feel like we could just keep talking and talking for days on these subjects.
Yeah.
I'm up for it.
I always love talking to Bob. I usually write stuff down and I use down the road, Bob. But
yeah,
I have several Bob-isms that I use.
Do you remember any of them off the top of your head?
My favorite is "You'll never get mugged on the high road." I use it constantly. I use it constantly.
You should have seen how his eyes just lit up when he goes, "Yep, that's true."
I use that one constantly. It's so easy to take the low road.
Oh man! All right, Jeff. Well, we really appreciate it, man.
Right.
Like I said, we'll see you Thursday. Thank you very much for sharing.
Right on.
With us. We'll catch up,
Jeff.
All right.
Good hearing from you, my friend. I'll see you somewhere down the road, I'm sure.
Hope so soon. See you, Bob.
See you. Bye.
Bye, Jeff.
Yeah.
Man, it's so cool to talk about these stories. Like, I have such a smile on my face. Like, I feel like my heart's smiling right now because we're talking about such cool stuff. We'll get Rory on the line here as well. But just hearing those stories just makes me feel so much more like included, I guess you could say, in the history of off-road. I didn't experience those things with you and him. I just experienced them right now, though.
Well, you know what he's talking about, his variety of experiences in various racing worlds,
right.
Pavement, stuff like that. He's discovered that other race people, he'll lie to tell you. He'll lie to tell you if your tire pressure is not what he'll lie. Yep. But that doesn't seem to happen that way in off-road. And besides, even if it happens a little bit at the end of the race, all you see is those flying hands and people saying, "You got me in." Blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. Let's go have a shot at tequila, maybe on Bob.
Yeah, do it.
All right, so we got Rory Ward on the line. What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Hey, thanks for dealing with these technology flaws. We really appreciate you hanging out with us tonight, though. So, Bob, you know Rory pretty well. Can you give me a little bit of background on him?
Rory who?
Yeah, Bob. A little background.
Yeah, well, this is pressure, George.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, well, Rory started out as my experience with Rory was initiated in 2001, as I recall. You were an exhibitor at the Offroad Expo, and thrifty, as I recall.
Yeah, very.
If you're not thrifty, you don't think hard enough about it.
Well, and so as he became an exhibitor year after year, I just came to fall in love with this guy more and more and more because it wasn't business, it was passion. You could see he had it. And he was doing T-shirts, but you could also see that there was a big old heart beating in there.
Yep.
And over the years, I've come to follow Rory, the production of his passions. I have dubbed him, like the official historian of off-road racing. And it's just a Bauer thing because he researches, he knows the history. He chases old chassis down, old race cars, buys some of them, brings them back to life big time. Like the Mickey Thompson Challenger 4, one of the most unique race cars ever created. Rory found it in a pile of parts, put it back together. So when we're talking to Rory Ward, we're talking to a guy that is the one right there. We're talking to a guy who not only just gets it, but sacrifices an awful lot of the things he could be doing in favor of the sport that he loves doing.
It's really cool to see that passion, and that goes a long way, Rory. We appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us on the show. So we're talking about, obviously, the lineage and the history of off-road racing. Do you remember, your first foray that made you get into it and, thought off-road was cool?
Well, it started with my dad. My dad was an off-road racer in the mid-'70s. So, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and we got a single seat Class 9 in the garage, and the guys are coming over every night and working on it and pounding beers and filling trash cans with beer cans. And, that's how it was in the 70s and in Las Vegas. So I'd go out to the races and, 5, 6, 7 years old. I really could care less about off-road racing at 5 or 6 or 7 years old. It was chasing lizards and crying because I had one of those cholla cactuses in the side of my leg, and I'd walk up to a guys either with me blocks and pulling them off. So it probably, and it's funny you mentioned Challenger 4. That was like one of the only times. It was a 78 mid 400. I remember because my dad was racing, and that was the first time that car was racing the mid 400, and I was out there chasing lizards or something, and I just heard this big roar coming down the power line. And, it was like more so than anything else out there. It was just, the roar was a lot louder than any of the other race cars. And I was like, I just stopped what I was doing, and I looked up, and this big yellow thing came flying by, and dust, and people are hooting and hollering. And I was like, wow, and then I went, okay, back to the lizards, but I remember that vividly, and I was just like, "Holy crap! That was awesome." So I slowly kind of started getting into it a little more, and unfortunately for me, we moved to Oregon in 1979. So for 2 years, I was away from off-road racing. And, the only contact I had at that time was Hot BWs. Hot BWs would always do, they'd have off-road coverage in it, so I'd read it, and, that kind of stuff. So. My dad racing was basically the thing for me to get into off-road racing,
So we always talk about this on the show is what do people like in social media nowadays, whether they like videos more, pictures more, and we get across the board, right? But every single guest that we've had on today was drooling over the pictures and hanging posters on their wall back in the day, because that's what you had, right? That's where you learned what off-road was all about. It's so cool to see because we're all doing the same thing, right? Maybe in a different form. Because me and Ricky Johnson, we were probably dirt bike guys to start with, and then we drift into the off-road culture and stuff. But it all means so much because we all have that little twinkle in our eye when we see these tires, or we see a steering wheel, or we see handlebars. So cool to think about. Do you remember the first time you met Rory? Was it at PRI?
No, not PRI. It was the Off-Road Expo. I believe I was there. Rory, I think it was 2001, the second year that Guy put the show on. Maybe.
Yeah, it might have been wasn't it the first year, or I don't know. Did you do it? I don't. I had known you well before then.
Yeah, Bob was a superstar. Everybody knows Bob.
He was.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, but you were hooked up with Pete Corwin somehow and got sand, and I don't remember how that all worked.
Yeah, he's a good friend. He's a good friend of mine, and he actually built a buggy for me. And that's I did artwork for him, and then we kind of hooked up that way. And I do T-shirt designs for him, and he'd print my shirts. So he'd do printing also. So that was one of the things I did. So that was probably 2000, 2001, somewhere in there.
What's been some of the we're still going to keep the show mainly off-road heritage and lineage and stuff, but maybe you can give us a description of some of the cars that you've worked on, but the reason that you had passion behind them was probably mostly because of either who built them or who drove them, those kinds of things. So maybe we can make a human connection with some of these ones that you've done, because I know you've done the Cheneth, the Class 1 car, you're redoing an Ivan Stewart truck, like some of the other ones that you've worked on.
Yeah, basically, I think my connection mostly was through magazines and stuff like that. And, you'd see pictures of cars, and, I draw cars, I started in math class. So I was always interested in cars, but it always turned into off-road cars later on in my teens. I just loved off-road racing. So I would just be drawing race cars. So the coolest race cars would always have a connection to me because, like the Malcolm Smith, Bud Feldkamp, Funko SF2, cars like that, just have a lot of history and stuff like that. And the Mickey Thompson car, Frank Vessel's vehicles, Bob Gordon's vehicles, Walker Evans, who was a big idol of mine when I was growing up. So that was my connection. That's how I grew. I don't know. It was my childhood. That's what I grew up with. So seeing these cars and going to the races and seeing them and talking to the guys, it really made a connection to me. And so when I got older and I see a car, and I'm like, oh my God, look at that thing. That thing needs to be rebuilt. I can't believe nobody bought it, but usually when I get something, it's pretty cheap. You know what I mean? Because there's just everything's missing from it or whatever. So I'm not a millionaire. Ask Bob. I mean, it's a pretty sick habit. It's kind of. I bet you if I was hooked on heroin, it'd be a lot cheaper.
Well, and maybe folks don't know, but Rory does this all on the fireman's pay.
Yeah.
But
it's the passion that we're really looking at.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Passion and patience. He's got a lot of patience.
That whole patience thing, I don't know if I have that. I don't know if I can afford it because I have very little to spend.
There might be a payoff. Rory, what did the Challenger, didn't it auction off?
No. I have not sold it. I would, a lot of people think I have like, oh my gosh, how can you sell something like that? And it's like, well, I have to sell something to pay for the next one. I mean, I just can't keep collecting these things, but although it's kind of like, you want it to go to a good home. So we're slowly leaning towards putting it up for sale one of these days. We actually have Challenger 3, which was Mickey Thompson's workhorse car. Me and Cody Swanning, who's a Dodge dealer up here in Kingman, and he's a good friend of mine. We partnered up on it, and it's almost like having bookends. You got the desert car, and you got the state raced in '78. And so we want to recreate the photograph that Mickey took with both of the cars sitting in front of the shop.
Whoa,
and then
imagine that.
Yeah, we do that, then it's kind of like, okay, it's time to get rid of one of my babies and finish up another one. So,
man, you got to really pay attention to where those things go. Then, like, I don't know if I could deal with the stress that Rory deals with after he does one and then lets it go.
You ought to see what it's like to find one.
Oh, it's
and deal with the people who may or may not want to let it go.
It's even crazier.
I think so. What you went through a lot with Danny's sister, didn't you, Rory?
Yeah, Lindy. That's where I got the Challenger 4. Lindy Thompson had it up in Eugene, Oregon, and it was a funny long story, but I'm not going to get in the long version of it. Basically, I called up to the shop because I had heard that they still had that car, and I thought it was long gone. I thought it was cut up or whatever, hadn't been seen in 30 years. And the guy took my name and phone number, and he put it on a sticky tab and put it on Lindy's desk. Well, Lindy had just came back from the post office or something and stacked all this paperwork on top of that sticky note. So I didn't hear back from her for like 3 months because she didn't know there was a message for her.
Whoa,
so
shit. Yeah.
Once they cleared off the desk and there's this little note, she called me and said, yeah, you were calling about this car. And I said, yeah. I go, I'm wondering if you'd sell it. She goes, well, what do you want to do with it? And I said, well, I want to restore it. I want to restore it back to this way it was, and I want to go race it at the Nora Mexican 1000. And I'll tell you, it was like an interview. She said she'd had the chance to sell it 3 different times, and she would sell it. And Lindy does not have a lot of money. She's, she does her thing, and she's not rich by any stretch of the imagination, just like me. But here she could have sold it to anybody, and she didn't. So she really wanted it to go to the right person, and I'm glad that I was the right person.
Yeah, but that has to feel good though too, because like you said, it's like an interview. Like you want to make sure it goes to a good home.
And I'm sure she felt that was exactly what was happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that and that car just bring me a lot of good luck, good friends, and it's amazing the connections you get through that car. And one of them was with Bob. And Bob, I don't know if you're going to let me tell this story, because you never really wanted me to say anything. But we were at the mid. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Okay. we were at the mid 400, and my car was on display with the BFG Blazer, and it didn't have a motor yet, but it looked complete for the most part. And me and you were sitting there talking, and you're like, "Hey, how's this thing going? How you doing on it? This is fantastic." And I said, "You go, what do you need? What do you need to finish on this car?" I go, "Bob, you know what I need? I need money." Joking around, like going, "Where's Mickey Thompson Tires? Are they going to give me $50,000 to finish this car?" No. But it was just kind of a joke. Bob was sitting there for 20, 30 minutes, and we were sitting there bullshitting. And then about 2 weeks later, after the mint, I get a letter from Bob. And I've never told this to anybody, but people need to know this. I'm sorry, Bob, if you're going to get mad at me, but I'm going to tell them. So I get this letter from Bob, and I open it up, and there's a check in there for $1,000. And I'm like, holy crap! What did Bob order? T-shirts or something? I can't. So I call him up. I go, Bob, what's going on? What did I miss? I said, what do you mean? I go, well, I just got a check. He goes, you know what to do with it. Go get that car done, boy.
Dude, that's awesome.
Just take. Are you serious? I mean, nobody's ever done that for me. You know what I mean? It was. I was getting teary eyed when I was talking to him, and it was just. But that's the kind of karma I was getting with that car. But and that's when me and Bob, we really hit it off, and I just knew, that's the kind of person Bob is. Bob, like, hey, I like what you're doing, and you looks like you need a little help, so I'm going to give you a little help.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, it's not necessarily money either. It's his experience. He'll pull you aside if he sees you struggling and go, hey, keep going. You're doing the right thing, blah, blah, blah. So thank you, Bob. I just think people need to know that little story about you. But
well, first of all, let me shake your hand for helping the off-road community and giving Roy a hand. But the cool part about that is, first of all, like we said, thank you. But there are a lot of people in the off-road industry that think the same. And whether it's $1,000 or whether it's helping change a tire or whether it's helping pull over on the course, that same mindset goes pretty far in the off-road world. Look at what BFG is doing now. They're doing the same thing that you did for Rory. They're helping everybody, right? So I commend the off-road community as a whole for being so compassionate to each other.
Well, some people deserve, something extra, I guess. And I'm not sure what to say about the.
Well, if you're a shitbag, you don't deserve it. But Rory's obviously doing a good job.
And it isn't like there's a debate on I'll say my side because I'm the guy that wrote the letter, but it's just like
right?
You just know.
Yeah,
this is right.
Yeah.
This is right.
Yep.
And what Rory was working on was right, and I was close to retirement. I could go out and earn that money in another 2 weeks.
That's cool.
Whatever it was.
So you go out there and help him. Rory, do you remember any times that you've sat in either the driver's seat or the passenger seat that you've had some help from people or that provides us a little bit of lineage and understanding of the off-road community during a race or anything like that?
You mean somebody helping you out while you're out there racing?
Or just something that you remember on course that kind of describes a little bit of the lineage and stuff that we're talking about, because there's been so many cases that, Bob's brought up tonight, Amy brought up, Jeff brought up, that just really have made my heart smile, because I can understand what people are feeling on the course, the emotion that's drawn into it, the failure, the success, the goals, all these different things. And I want to hear some of the stories that you have too.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think probably one of the first ones was the 95 Baja 1000. I was co-riding with a buddy of mine, Mike Jacobson, in a Class 5 Unlimited. And we were coming down the hill at La Rumoroso. And we'd never pre-ran before, but I pre-ran watching the Baja 500 on ESPN. And they came down La Rumoroso at that race, and Rob McCachran took a shortcut. There's only one cut, and La Rumoroso. And I was like, okay, it's halfway down, and you could actually cut off one of the corners. And he passed Kurt LeDuc in the Jeep at this corner. And I'm like, holy crap, Rob, that was a great idea. Well, we were following somebody in the Class 5 car, and I go, Mike, there's a shortcut coming up here. He's like, where? I go, it's right over there. I go, as soon as you get to it, take it. So we took it, but then Mike misjudged the corner. And when we came off of that shortcut and got back onto the road, one of the tires fell off of the cliff. So we had one front tire off the cliff. So I jumped out of the car, and I'm trying to push him backwards, and it wasn't working. And you got to be careful in a 5 car, because reverse is the weakest gear in the whole car. Yeah. So you can't spin it. You got to slowly do it. Well, so here we are. We went from first place to last place with my call. So it was
shortcut.
Oh man.
And I'll tell you, God bless it. Bob Land in a Class 7. I'm just standing there in the middle of the course, hoping somebody will help me. And here comes Bob Land, and he just saw the look on my face, and he's like, all right, here's a rope. You got one shot, so hurry up. So, I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And so, it's funny, just that little thing. It took him, I swear it probably took him 30 seconds. 30 seconds, he pulled us out. It made my whole race, or our whole race, because we did great. We started catching back up, and we were doing really good. So it's funny, just that one guy that will help you out in your time of need. And, sometimes it makes a big difference. And I passed it forward in 2017 with Reed Rutherford in a I don't know, it's kind of like a Mason.
It's a Mason 7200 truck with an Ecotec.
Yeah, trophy light truck, but same motor. And same thing. We were coming into Bay of LA. I was 15 miles from Bay of LA, and there he was stuck in a ravine, and he had a rope out, and I stopped, and he said, oh, will you help me? I go, you got one shot. I go, you better tie that thing tight and let's go, because I got to go. And I pulled him out, and I thought, oh, great, a little bit of Baja Karma. Baja Karma is good when you're racing. So we finished our section. We didn't have any problems, and Reed went on to win the race that race. So, nice. And we broke. So
Reed, I won the 1,000 with Reed in 2012.
Oh, cool.
It was my 5th. But Rory, you talked about La Rumorosa, and you know what it is. I know what it is. I don't think George knows.
No, I don't.
And I don't think his viewers and listeners know what it is. So maybe I could. You want to describe it, Rory? Because you're way more animated than the old Bob guy is. But
I don't know about
that. If you fail, I'll get it going.
There you go. All right, give it a shot, Rory.
Tell us about this La Rumorosa. It's a sphincter clinch in Mexico.
Is it really?
Is it really?
No, I don't know.
It's a power line road that takes you from the top of this mountain range all the way to the bottom of the bottom of this wash, and it's coming into Mexicali from Tijuana.
It's
zigzags
like crazy, and most of them are back and fill turns. It's that sharp.
Really?
No guardrail, just a sheer. You can see the bottom from the top.
Fuck,
yeah,
man,
2 to 3 points each one for the most part. Trophy trucks were backing up to make the corner, and it's probably, what is it, Bob? Probably 6 or 7 miles long, and you only probably 1 mile
Dude, this sounds like
If
those
that.
shows, like the most dangerous roads.
Well, in a lot of ways, and it's the most dangerous situation because in any race car, trophy trucks and especially, you can't see through that whole front end.
Right.
But you know your tires are close to the edge. You just don't know how close.
Right.
And so that's
And
where
you
it
only
gets
have two-wheel drive. In a UTV, it'd probably be like cheating.
Well, UTV would be a happier place than
Yeah.
a trophy truck and that stuff. But it's so when I say it's a sphincter clinch, it's really about 60 of them.
Well, it's 6 miles of them.
Yeah. Tough road. They don't use it often. I think probably 90, 95, 96 might have been the last time they used it, Rory.
No, they used it at either the 500 or the 1,000. I know 2008 they used it at the 1,000.
Oh, okay.
Because I was flying columns. But lately, within the last 3 years, I think they used it one time.
Yeah.
So it was, it's a pretty interesting race course for sure.
I don't like going down it.
And you have a lot of experience too. That's crazy. So I'm sure if I got there, I would probably really be scared.
Yeah.
Man, that's nuts. It's so cool to hear these stories and I don't know. I mean, do you guys have any of these stories that are like with the people that live down there? You know, because like whenever we go down there, we have so many pre-running stories and talking with people and going down there and just how happy to see us they are and just all kinds of phenomenal stuff.
There's a few I could think. Who's the top candidate? I'd say would be Rory. Chime in and see if this makes sense to you. I think it's Edson down in San Ignacio. Edson Romero. Yeah,
It's a town.
San Ignacio is a town about halfway down.
Okay.
And every
Right.
child is a hardball race fan for off-road. I mean, when they tell
100%.
they give us the warnings. You treat yourselves correctly. You're a rock star to them. Well, and when you go down there a number of years, George, guess what? Some of these kids grow into adults,
Yeah, 100%. They do.
and then they have kids,
Yep.
and they grow up into adults, and that's when you start coming on shows like this.
They just keep seeing you, right? But that's why so many people were saying thank you to you. Tyrone Robinson, what's up, man? How are you? Yes. So Rory, those kinds of things go a long way, and they really kind of keep you vested in the culture.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any stories with the fans down there?
No, because I'm not Robbie Gordon or Rob McCaffrin. You know, I'm just some other guy. I mean, I'll tell you what, though. I mean, you're a rock star if you're handing out stickers. So we do that. We try, you know, but I don't know. I mean, I'm usually just. I mean, I don't get to go pre-run that often, and that's really when that stuff really happens. I mean, I probably only pre-ran 3 or 4 times down in Baja, just because I just don't have the time to go down and do it right.
Yeah, man. Some of that times has been the best times for me, and I'm clearly not Robbie Gordon as well. But I just remember the smile on the kids' faces, like you know. Basically, when I've been down there, I've just been media guy, and when they see a camera, man, it's like they're on the Next America's Got Talent. They come out with their bicycle wheelies and showing me the RC cars that they've built and the stuff that they understand. Like, I can't wait to see these kids in 10 years, like what you're saying, Bob, with an actual truck that they've built because they learned how to build an RC car, or with a dirt bike that they're wheeling down the road because they knew, like, it's so meaningful because they're so passionate about it, just like the glimmer I was telling you that I see in my eyes and you as well.
And it happens. I had an experience in San Ignacio on our way back from the Nora Mexican 1000. I was with Sean Hoagland and our group. And I honestly can't remember which year it is, but we'd parked on there's a big square in San Ignacio with huge ficus trees. It's beautiful, old school. The church is right over here. And so we had just gotten out of the trucks and we're walking down, I think, to a restaurant or an ice cream store. And I hear this name. Hey, Bob Bauer. I mean, it's like from the neighborhood. I didn't know whether to run or even react.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was, what the hell is that? Maybe it was those damn voices again. You know, you never know. And but I hear my name. And I turn around, and there's this little short Mexican guy kind of trotting toward me. He has in his hand a snapshot that he took of me in 1989 when Robbie and I came through there, and it was a checkpoint he was a checkpoint worker. As we stopped to get our shit, he took a picture.
Really?
So I couldn't believe it. He's walking down and said, I recognize you're Bob Bauer. I have your picture. And he had it somewhere close enough to go find it and show it to me.
That's so cool. Do
His
you
name's
remember how
Martin.
many years later that was, or did you just say that?
Yeah, no, it was 89, so 90. 2000.
Because that's
2010.
phenomenal. Like,
It had to be at least 25 years later.
that passion and that drive, it just shows how the history of off-road affects so many people. Because just like I said, I had pictures of people, on the walls or whatever. Like, this dude was so passionate, and this is no fault to you, but like, I guarantee he had a bunch of those pictures, right? He tried to take as many pictures as he possibly could, but it just so happened that the timing and placement of it was perfect, that he got to experience something that he never thought he was going to.
And the look of pride and excitement in his eyes when he introduced me to his son.
Right.
That was like Martine was having a moment, and I was certainly glad, to be part of it.
Dude, that is so
like,
freaking
you can't
cool.
Create that.
No, never.
It just happens.
It was so natural. Rory, those moments are so special, man, and that's part of the culture, right?
Oh, for sure. And it kind of jars the memory. Probably the thing I can say about the locals down there in Mexico is they'll do anything to help you out. You know what I mean? If you're out there racing and something happens, I mean, you'll think you're in the middle of nowhere, and then just people start popping out of the bushes. And I got stuck at the 2009 Baja 1000. I was in a silt bed and I was buried. I was not getting out. And here comes this guy in a Ford F-250 from Mexicali. Can't remember his name, but he told me at the time, and I kind of wrote it in my race story. But he shows up and he didn't say nothing. He just tied a rope around my car, and I'd been down there for 45 minutes already. And it was dark, and I was like, I'm done. I don't know what I'm going to do. He pulled me right out. I reached in my pocket. I had $40 and I handed it to him. He goes, I don't want your money. He goes, get out there. Go. Get out of here. You know what I mean? And he goes, I'm just happy to be out here and helping you guys. So you'll see a lot of that.
That is so cool, man.
Of course, there's times when a $20 bill doesn't do bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, a $20 bill won Chuck Johnson and I the 91 Baja 1000 and the Mini Medal Challenge and our class championship to boot. We were trying on a new route, and it's out by Guadalupe, and there was real soft, sandy uphill that trapped everybody. There had to be 7 or 8 cars, all different, park stuff like that, including us. And so we backed down off this hill back into the sand wash and got stuck there.
Oh.
So everybody's gesturing, everybody's flapping and hollering and said, "Help me, help me, help me." I got out of the car. And I looked over at a tree, and there was like 4 guys kind of standing on a log. Took a $20 bill. You have to hide them in different places in your suit so they don't see it all. Yep. I put a $20 bill up in the air, and those guys came rushing over there. They picked that truck. It's a 7S, picked it up, and carried it off the sand into
like a freaking wheelbarrow.
Spot. No, both. How did they do that? And it was under power. Johnny was throttling it.
So they were just lifting it up enough.
Lifting it up enough to get it going. He made it to the top of the hill. It took me a while to get up there myself, but I did. We got in. We went on. We won our race. But that was a 91 Baja 1000, and that's one of the maps I have here. And I'll tell you, that was just like living through an Indiana Jones movie. It was horrible.
It was that gnarly of a course, huh?
It was great, but horrible.
That's good. That's so crazy to think, like, how much... Well, first of all, motivation they have for money, but that's cool because they helped you, right? And you had that human connection with those 4 guys. And I guarantee those guys, when they heard that you won, they were like, yep, we were a part of that.
There's some guys at the other end of the race at Erendira that decided to have a little fun. They don't have cable, I guess.
Oh.
And they opened up the irrigation pipes and the sewage pipes.
Oh,
fields.
no.
Came right across the race course, caused a heck of a mess, so to speak.
Yeah.
And Chuck Johnson and I got there. We were running the 7S then, and it's a narrow gap. Rory, you been through that little gap, that little fence line on Erendia?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's maybe 6 feet wide, 12 feet wide tops, and then you got the big dike or the ocean's on the other side of this pile of rocks.
Okay.
It's like a breakwater. And so we stopped, and I see all the lights looking in different directions, and I said, Chuck, stop. Let's need to study the situation, what's going on. And clearly the race course was blocked, lots of lights, so I said, let's climb up on the rocks. and we got up on that breakwater and started kind of lumping and low.
What did you think, you were at King of the Hammers or something?
It was damn slow, but it was forward. And then I see the headlights of a chase truck on the same set of rocks. Door open, driver door open. And I'm thinking, are we about to have a Baja story here, for crying out loud, where we can tell people how we tore this guy's door off?
Oh, great.
No, we're not tearing the door off. He was helping. It was a dad. It was Bill Bryan helping his son, David Bryan, to get out of that soupy, snotty mess.
Oh.
So David hollered up, and he saw me, and he says, "Hey, Dad, close your door. Bob, that's Bob and Chuck. They're in the lead. Let them go. But while old Bill climbed back up those rocks, we realized the tide was in, it was high, and the surf was nasty, because we felt those rocks as surf would hit about every fourth or fifth one.
It gets slippery? Uh-oh.
Settling. Driver's side down. Settling. Come on, Bill. Settling. Bill, hurry, please.
Oh man.
Bill, light a fire, Bill.
Dude.
And and we got out, but we were at an angle that gave me another one of those finger clinches. Exactly.
Those stories are just phenomenal. And there's so many stories that we could share, Rory. Like, it just keeps going and going and going, right? So what are some of the projects that you have working on now?
Well, I'm just putting together Challenger 3. I'm just kind of cleaning it up because it's basically it's complete. It was ran at like Riverside in like 1980, I think was the last race it had. Not 100% sure, but I think so. So it's like they parked it and then they took the rear end out of it and took the wing off of it and left it the way it was. So I'm tearing it down, knocking all the Riverside dirt off of it. Actually was doing that today. I'm going to clean it all up, put it all back together, and it won't be running or anything because we didn't want to do one of those restorations on it. We just kind of wanted to get it back together, cleaned up, so it looks like it's ready to race, right? But it's so complete, we don't really want to do anything either because then it kind of takes away from, hey, this was Mickey's car. He raced it last and then parked it. So we don't want to paint anything. We don't want to do anything. We're just cleaning it up. Right. So we'll get done. Hopefully in the next 2 months, I'll be done with that. And then I'm jumping back onto the Ivan Stewart Toyota and hopefully trying to get that thing done by 2023. That's kind of the plan. And one of the big things that we just got, which I wasn't planning on doing, is my truck is PPI 001, the 001 chassis. Well, I just bought the 004 chassis, which is the stadium truck, but from 001 to 004, they're basically the same truck. They're on the same platform, except 2 are extra cabs and 2 of them were standard cabs. And the standard cab trucks were in the stadium and the extra cabs were in the desert. Well, the reason I got the stadium truck was because it came with a truck or maybe a tractor trailer full of spares.
Oh, so you got the bonus.
Well, that's what I want. I didn't even want the truck. I told him, I need the spares. I don't need another truck. I need to spend my money on the truck, the Ivan Stewart truck, and not another truck. But he wasn't going to sell me the spares without the truck. So, and it was Alan Russell down in California, and he made me a really good deal on it that I couldn't pass up. So it's actually going to save me money in the long run. I mean, with, a mountain full of torsion bars and transmissions and steering boxes and suspension pieces and everything. So
the shop's going to be full for a little while.
It's full right now. It's big time full, but that's what I'm focusing on. I kind of just need to kind of put this Mickey Thompson car together and get it done rolling. And then the Ivan Stewart truck I'm jumping back on because that's going to be, it's been a huge undertaking already, but it's going to be well worth it because I grew up watching that truck race and it was, I always wanted a Toyota because of that truck. And now I have that truck, which is funny.
Yeah, that's one of my googly eye pictures that I always love seeing. You know what I mean?
So the iconic stripes, the oranges and the yellows.
Totally. I had a side-by-side that I mimicked that with.
Cool.
I did the same kind of design on it. So I can't wait to see what Rory comes up with and how well it turns out. Is there any other stories that you want to share, Rory, before we let you go?
No, not really. I mean, you know what? I will tell you the story that Jeff was alluding to at Nora when we raced the Mexican 1000.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so, me and Jeff have been working on this car for 8-9 months straight. Telephone calls back and forth, yada, yada, yada. And we got Mark involved in it, Mark Stahl. And we said, hey, we're going to let you drive it, but you're only getting the first stage, Mark. After that, sorry, buddy. It's me and Jeff. It's the Rory and Jeff show after that. He goes, no, I get it. So we said, all right, you're getting the first stage. Well, the night before, they're all, hey, Rory, we need that car in the bull ring because we're going to have, Bob Gordon's car, Mark McMillan's car, the Riviera car, which was the old trophy truck killer, which I used to own, and I sold it to Mark Post. So they're going to do a tennis shoot. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to be fantastic. So me and Jeff are excited. So we get the car there that morning. Me and Jeff are just in our regular clothes because we're not driving until later on in the day. So Mark Stahl's out there with his driving suit on, and Mark McMillan and a couple other guys. And they line everybody up. They said, okay, we want all the drivers out there next to their cars. So me and Mark and Jeff walked over to the car, and I think it was Bink Photos.
Oh yeah, Bink. I know. Yeah.
Bink was in charge of the photo shoot. So Rory, Jeff, back up just a little bit. We're like, oh, okay. So we back up like 2 steps, and he goes, little more. And I'm okay. So I got this big old stupid smile on my face. I'm just thoroughly enjoying it. They want to see more of the car. Okay, I get it. And then the light went off in Jeff's head. He already knows what's going on. I don't. They're like, Rory, little more back.
Oh.
And then Jeff finally goes, Rory, they don't want us in the picture. We got to back off. And I'm like, what? Oh, and then I look and everybody's in the driver's seat and we're like, oh, so Mark's over there shaking hands, kissing babies, while they're doing this photo shoot, and everybody's just enamored with the car and all this stuff. And then we're just sitting over there going, well, enjoy it, Mark. I mean, you worked so hard to get that car back here out in the desert. We'll be over here. If you need a soda or something, let us know. We'll run one over to you. But yeah.
Yeah. You want us to feed you some grapes too?
Yeah. Well,
pretty much. Somebody needs to. But and so it was funny because walking out of the bull ring, me and Jeff are making these jokes back and forth, and we were just having a great time with it, even though we were just told, "Hey, get away from your race car that you guys have worked so hard to get back out here." So yeah, it was just a little story that me and Jeff snicker about it every once in a while.
The things that are important to everybody else are usually not important to the person that's done it, right? It's so funny to see. And there's been so many times like that. I'll be like, hey, do you want a picture with me in the race car? And they're like, no, I'm good with the race car.
Yeah.
Like we're cool.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting here with legends. You got Pat Dean standing over there by his car with Mark Post, and you got Mark McMillan standing next to McAdoo, and then here's even Mark Stahl, he's standing out there, and Dan Cornwell, and I'm like, man, this is for me, an off-road guy, this is off-road royalty for the most part,
That's special though.
And they were like, hey, you two, where's your backstage pass? Get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
should have photobombed him like you did me,
Oh, there you go.
Couple of those, yeah.
Those are some good stories, though. I love talking. Like I told Bob earlier, we could talk about this stuff for days and days and days, man. We could have so much fun. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show, Rory, and hanging out with us. I know it's late, especially for the guys out on the East Coast and stuff like that. So we really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us for a little bit. One of the things that I would like to suggest is that you go check out Racers Only on Instagram and see some of the builds that Rory's done. He sent us some pictures of them. We tried to show them here on the camera and stuff like that while Rory was talking. But go check him out too, because he's got some really cool content up there. So yeah, thanks again, Rory. Really appreciate it, bud.
Well, George, thanks for having me on, and Bob, thanks for being a friend.
Well, thank you for being my friend too, Rory. It's just, that's plain and simple and honest.
Absolutely, buddy.
We really appreciate it. Thanks for lining up, Rory, too. I really appreciate that, Bob. So, all right, Rory. Well, we're going to still do some more of these history shows, so we'll see if we get to include you on any of them, man. We really appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you.
See ya.
anytime you hear those stories, I never got to live any of those stories like you did. And when I say that, I mean like he's telling stories, and to me, they're engaging and they're cool stories to hear. But to you, they must mean a little bit more because you got to be a part of a lot of those things. Maybe not the actual story like the bull ring, but hearing those things, you can see it, you can picture it, you can visualize it.
I absolutely can. I absolutely can. And we're in the stories where they maybe involve me. It's like, you know what I'm doing, George? I'm celebrating.
Yeah.
I'm celebrating. I've been such a lucky guy to have so many things go my way. Even to the point where I had to tell my son, do not try and follow my career path. You can't you just can't. Nobody has this much luck.
Yep. Some of the things that happen are just because life turns that way, right? It just it just happens like that. Well, we're going to end the show a little bit and kind of go through some questions. We have a rapid fire Q&A that I'm going to wrestle off at you. But
all right,
one of the things that I want to do is I want to thank you for being such an integral part of developing some of the technology and mapping and partnerships that currently are foundation for the stuff that we deal with in off-road racing. So I appreciate that because I had no idea. I sat down with you at the last year's Mint 400, and I had no idea you were such an integral part of all that stuff. And I know a lot of people here may not know that as well. So I want to thank you, and even thank you from the audience too. So it's cool, super cool that you were able to do that. And I know that it's humble for you, or you talk about it humble because it was necessity that made it, right? Like that's just what happened. But
one thing the desert does seem to teach is you don't want to get your pants too big, dude.
Yeah, you got to make sure that because the desert will win.
Yeah, just never forget who you really are.
Yeah, who's the boss, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but it's been kind of like my guiding light.
And then one other question I was going to ask, because it's very interesting to me, is I don't want to say the transition, but the transition from off-road racing and being a Baja champion and being an off-road racer and such an integral part in all of these different things to now a media personality. It's very interesting to me because I'm living that brand new right now. How was that for you?
Well, it's my media stuff started in 1995.
Right.
And they brought me in as a color analyst on trophy truck racing.
Yep, I saw some of the snippets that you provided. It was really cool.
And I'll tell you what they told me. This is, the first approach was from a cameraman, a guy I knew, because we used to sit and have beers after the races, and we just tell each other. I mean, it's, do what you do after races. Your mouth goes like a duck's ass.
100%.
And so Mark said, you ever think about, doing any announcing or anything? Come on.
Yes, same with me.
And so he says, I'm going to call a guy. And so what he said, he's going to call his producer, who's back in Marietta, Georgia, a guy named Chet Burks. And I really didn't have that much interest in being on the TV stuff for off-road racing because my opinion of it was way below what they thought they were sending. I thought it really sucked.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, hit a guy in the mouth saying, hey, your work is shit, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't do that. So I get this call from this fellow Chet. And he says, Mark, told me to call you, blah, 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 blah. He says, I think we may be interested in you. He says, I don't want you to answer me now. I'm going to send you a tape. I want you to watch the tape. Call me back. Tell me what you think. Okay.
Easy enough.
Watch the tape. And then, the crowning glory of this particular race broadcast was they did a long section of the La Bufadora.
Yep.
And the bacon-covered hot dogs.
Ooh.
That was like, that's a big part of the show.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah. Then they showed a pit stop out there in the desert. It showed Rob McCachran coming into a pit stop at about 2 miles an hour and leaving at about 2 miles an hour. And that's just like, I know they don't haul in and haul out, but you get some footage of cars at speed, do you think?
Right.
So I watched the tape, and I'm dreading
what the conversation's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I figured. So I finally called him back, and I said, my brain was saying, Bauer, you don't have the job now. You're not going to get it, so you might as well just get it over with.
Be honest.
Take the Band-Aid off now.
Yep.
And so I said, I'm sorry to say, but I said that was really, it's kind of boring. Boring. What would you do different? Well, first thing I'd do is I'd show racing.
Yeah.
You're hired.
Done.
It was the show the other producer was doing.
Oh.
He sent me his competitor's tape, and I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so that started it, and they hooked me up with Dave Despain.
Yeah.
And
one of my idols when I was growing up, because he announced all of the dirt bike races.
Oh, motorcycle guy like crazy, And so those folks, between the two of them, they made me look good. They taught me some stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's where it started. So with the media that I'm doing for Mint, I'm not sure what to say about it. It hasn't been a professional endeavor on my part. It started out as
passionate endeavor.
It's all I've ever had.
Yeah.
It's all I've ever had. They made me a stage announcer guy. I got to welcome everybody to the finish.
Cool.
Win, lose, or draw. And I was almost pissed when they took me off of that.
Yeah.
Because I said, for crying out loud, you're up there for 14 hours in a finish line vibe. Nobody's sorry to be there.
Everybody's pumped. Yeah.
It's like, don't throw me in that briar patch.
Yep.
Happy day, all night. Well, and so I just sort of decided that if the Martellis want to put me in this slot, I'll do this.
Yeah.
Because overriding everything, George, I just want to stay involved.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny that you say that, because all of those things, I've only been doing it for a very short time, and still to this day I tell everybody I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm passionate about it, right? And I like it, and I think it's cool, and I feel like I'm doing a good job when I hear the feedback, but I've gotten my ass handed to me big time, and a lot of people don't know this, but they're listening to the show now. Like, producers have told me to go fuck myself. Like, no, dude, you can't do that. You have to do it different. So it's all those same learning curves that you experience in any type of occupation or racing or whatever it is. But I like to hear those stories, especially from somebody like you that I look up to, because I understand that maybe some of the growing pains don't hurt as much, or they are a little bit more, just as long as you have a good understanding of doing it for passion.
I tell you, time takes some of the heat out of everything.
Yeah.
Except passion.
Yeah, that's true. But I do like it, though, and I appreciate that you're being a part of it, too, because it makes it easier for a guy like me. So thank you very much. All right, you ready for some of these rapid-fire Q&A?
Are you ready for the rapid-fire answers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see what the hell happens.
So the
Seven.
Huh?
7. Did I get it right?
Totally. That's the answer to number 1. So you got the first one right. Rapid-fire Q&A, tacos or hot dogs?
Tacos.
Question number 2, chicken or asada?
Chicken. Well, it depends on how the chicken's done. Asada, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, true. Dunes or the river? This is a hard one.
Am I driving?
I guess it probably depends on what time of year too, huh?
Well, at the river, there's nice, cool river. It could be 104 degrees.
Let's talk about it. Dunes or the river in April?
River.
Okay, going to the river. Action shots or still shots?
You mean
action shots would mean like you're going around a corner in the silt bed or something like that. A still shot, you're standing next to the podium.
Action.
3-wheeler or quad?
Quad.
Pizza rolls or jalapeno poppers?
Pizza rolls. Those are the
big
those
pizza roll guys.
are. I'm sorry, they're rectum rockets.
Not good for Bob's tummy. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite movie? This is a good one. And this could be anything, man. We're talking Talladega Nights. We're talking documentary.
That's hard.
I guess we could say it's One More Win.
Probably should.
But yeah,
I'll go with that because I want to help Amy.
Yeah, 100%. Amy's done such a good job. Here we go. Let's change the date on this. The sketchiest moment of your last Baja race. And we're talking anything. We're talking a truck issue. We're talking booby trap. We're talking getting out of the car. Maybe something else happened that it was in a chase truck. It wasn't even you guys. But the sketchiest moment of your last Baja race.
Gosh, that's hard to do. There's
or a sketchy moment.
Well, no. In a way, I know what you mean by sketchy, which is like
eye-opening moment.
Here's what it was. These guys are going to kill me someday for this, but I'm going to be dead soon anyhow, so it doesn't really matter.
We like hearing these stories, though.
Yeah. Last Baja 1000 for me, as I was driving, right? So when you're talking about it, or just the last one I attended?
Driving would be cool.
Driving is cool. That was 2017. I was my last race, and I knew it was going to be my last race because the way you get invited into these races, you wait for the phone call in July. And it's, I've been preaching for a bunch of years. hey. I said, it doesn't make sense to put old people in race cars. Do you know that? It's just got to end sometime. So I got my ride, and I said, you know what, Bauer, if you could drive a perfectly good race car across the finish line in La Paz in first place at the 50th annual, when you're 72 years old, back out, stop.
Yeah.
It's badass enough, step away from the race car, and that's what I did. But getting there, I was partnered up with Kyle Tucker.
Okay.
Who Detroit Speed, Kyle Tucker. And Kyle was really fast. It was a good pairing because I'm really not. He took it to Loreto to Santa Rita. My stick was to Santa Rita to the finish line.
Okay.
So the sketchy moment is it starts off with we're just coming into the
There's a
Santa
bunch
Rita.
of those fucking whoops too, man.
Oh, well, we did okay in the whoops. I had to. Let me go off the side. I'll
Okay.
tell you what I did to Kyle, poor guy.
Okay.
He had like implicit trust in everything I said. Fool, but he did. And so this is down by San Carlos, and there's a section that's 48 or 54, I can't remember, miles of just straight whoops.
Yeah.
Just whoops.
Yep.
And there's space so that you in a BC car you can't get on top.
Got it.
Plus you got to go slow. You get over 20 miles an hour, you're starting to work those CVs more than.
Yeah, dude.
And so you have to drive to the CVs. So here's Kyle, hot shoe guy, almost an autocrosser at 110 miles an hour. So I know we're coming to this section. So I said, Kyle, we pre-ran this. I said, we're coming up this section. It's going to be just whoops and whoops and whoops. I want you to get your mind set, relax. Remember, we're doing CVs. Just keep it on the ground. I said, keep it in the spring and keep it on the ground. That's the only instructions I gave him.
Yep.
I said, you're going to have this for probably at least an hour.
Yeah.
Just settle yourself for it. Like that. And then give him a few tune-ups and hugs and kisses and things along the way. We finally get to the end of it. He looks at the light outside and realizes the sun's kind of lower now. We got into that stuff about noon. He says, you son of a bitch. He says, that was 5 hours.
Yeah.
Well,
give or take.
Yeah, and so the sketchy part comes that we're coming to Santa Rita, and it's people everywhere and dusty everything, and we somehow got ourselves screwed up and stuffed it under the branches of a tree next to the and nose down, and we're thinking, oh, crap, we won't get out. Well, we got out, and we only had about another 3/4 of a mile. The pit was right over there.
Okay.
So we got up in the pit, and we talked about this, that, listen, we have a 4.5 or 5 hour lead. Last stop of the race. We're putting Bauer in, not a race driver, transport driver. But one thing that matters a lot is how you get your belts adjusted.
Yep.
And so I said, you watch, Kyle. I said, we're going to get to that pit, and these guys are going to do their NASCAR pit.
Yep.
And they're going to do all our belts. They're going to get us in there and get us on, and they shove us out as fast as they can. And sure shit, that's what they did. We had all these hours. As opposed to doing what you want to do in a race car, you want to get yourself in.
Right.
And set right.
Yep.
And find the right position, because I'm not moving now.
Yeah.
And this is going to be for a few hours.
Yep.
It's like another 6 hours or whatever it was.
Yep.
And so the sketchy moment is that we let them do whatever they wanted to us to get us in the car. And this belt was like this, and you're all messed up. And I put it into gear. I drove it away for about maybe 300 yards, and I stopped. And Kyle and I got out. We fixed our shit. We got back in the car. See ya.
That's cool.
So that was the only sketchy moment I had. The rest of it was just
I'm glad that you guys did that, though, and I've been guilty of doing that, too, not necessarily in a Baja race, but making sure that all of that stuff. I'm a big safety guy, but I usually did that as a precautionary measure, so I didn't have to be retroactive if something did happen or I got fucked up. So I'm glad that you guys did that. That is a pretty sketchy moment, though. And a lot of guys would just keep going.
Yeah, you sit there, you're this side's pasted in, this side's not doing anything, and it's like you can't do that.
Yeah, and at the finish line, you would not feel good.
That wasn't rapid, was it? Sorry.
No, that was a good story, though. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? We can have anything.
I'd like to fly.
Fly? A lot of people pick fly. We got a lot of people that pick teleportation, too. They can just be in one place. Netflix or YouTube?
YouTube.
There's so many good things on both nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh, this is kind of the same as the action shots or still shots. Videos or photos?
Well, for our sport, video.
Yeah. You can see a lot, right?
Yeah.
Most memorable race? This is probably a pretty loaded question for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying to exact the year. 1987.
Do you remember what car it was?
Oh, yeah. I was Mike Randall and I were in a 7 4x4 Jeep Comanche.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the Randalls don't have a cast of thousands. We had one chase car,
Got it.
Johnny Randall, and a guy named Larry Southard. And he was from Wisconsin. So Mike and I, we're in La Paz. We're in Ensenada. We're going to La Paz. We get about 90 miles into the race in this little area called close to El Alamo.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the car stops running. Open the hood. Turns out the air cleaner, the quarter 20 bolt that goes down there,
Yeah.
it's sheared. The air cleaner's off of here. The carburetor's coming apart.
Oh, crap.
We figured, well, it's over. So we had some bungees. So we bungeed the air cleaner down on the carburetor and hooked on the manifold. So the pressure was holding that carburetor on the manifold.
Oh, really?
And we were going to nurse it to the highway.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And we were worried because the quarter 20 nut went down the carburetor and it's in the motor somewhere.
Oh, fuck.
So you're thinking to yourself, well, this isn't going to work. Well, it ran. So it ran pretty good, actually. And so we kept going a little bit further. And you know how when you've had a problem, you do a little of this and a little of that. And,
double check everything.
yeah. See, oh, God, it's acting like a car.
Yeah.
So we went a little faster. Shit, howdy, we're back in the race.
Nice.
And we were headed for La Paz, just the two of us. We got stuck 9 times. 9 times. Had to dig out. The same Jeep pulled us out 4 times of those 9.
Man, you were that close on course? That's crazy.
No, we waited for him.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a different class Jeep. And they never knew they'd helped us so many because they had cockpit changes.
Oh.
So
the guys were like, oh, who's this?
yeah. And one of them was gosh, you ever get your front tires in the left groove and the rear tires in the other groove?
Yeah, it's cross-threaded is what they call it, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's cross fucked up is what I call it. And we got there like that, and all of a sudden the car went bang like this.
Oh!
And landed, the back end of the thing just landed on one of those little elephant trees.
Yeah?
And the tires were maybe that far off the ground, but they were off the ground.
Oh, no.
And so Mike's telling me, you're the co-driver, get out and get us out of this tree. I go out with my shovel, and I dig a groove from the axle housing toward the transmission, from the back of the truck forward.
Yeah.
I wanted to dig a trench because I was getting that car down, and I knew it was going to come down on me if I didn't have a trench.
Yeah.
So I got the trench, and bit by bit started hacking away at this stupid tree until you hear it. We got down on the ground.
Dang.
We left.
Dude, that's so MacGyver. I mean, like, that's crazy.
And another time I had to get on my hands and knees because we were in Santa Rita, just getting close to La Paz.
Yep.
And we're stuck. He says, get out and do something. All I could do is get down and do this. You stand in the middle with my knees in the silt, hoping the guy didn't run me over. Yeah. And then the scary moment after that came on that same cliff road by San Juanico, going to San Isidro.
Yep.
This is now the next day about
this road doesn't like you.
11. And so we're running along, and I'm realizing, we're not really racing. I look over at Mike, and there he is, out like a light.
Talk about a sketchy moment.
And so I had to kind of like ease over the steering wheel and get us through a turn or two before I woke him up because I didn't want to scare him.
Yeah, or have something worse happen.
Yeah. So I don't know which is sketchier.
Man, that's so crazy. Those are memorable moments. That's for dang sure. Okay, I'm going to change this question up a little bit. The question is favorite snack, but what about favorite snack during a race? I mean, what do you guys eat? Beef jerky,
It's
granola
changed,
bars?
It's changed over the years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What would be your if you had to get in a car right now, what would be your snack of choice?
I would have, because I figure I'm going to be in there for 8 or 10 hours.
Yep.
So I would have pre-made for myself what I call little roll-ups, which are really just a flour tortilla with gallo, like salami discs.
Yep, cheese and meat.
And string cheese.
Yep.
Roll it up.
Yep.
Squeeze it.
Yeah.
Like that. And you can pack about 6 or 7 of those things in the size of a cigar.
Yep. They make it so good, right?
Yeah.
What other form of racing would you like to try? And this could be anything. This could be speedboat racing, monster trucks, rally cars.
I was always jealous of my flight instructor.
Oh, really? Like those Red Bull racing kind of things?
No,
or like
this is P-51 Mustangs, Warbirds.
Oh, gotcha.
And we raced those for a couple of years, and I was just a kid on the crew.
Dude, those would be so fun.
Oh, you should be in one.
Really? I've never got the
George,
chance to do that. That sounds
the
insane.
airframe around you. It's what holds the glycol.
What's that?
Coolant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they're water cooled, and you touch it, it's hot.
That's crazy.
Yeah, And he's doing this with his stick, when he's doing this, and all of your face just drips off your skull into your lap.
Whoa.
It's fun.
Dude,
I
would
would go air racing.
That would be insane. I don't know how much this question pertains to you, but who is your celebrity crush?
Bernadette Peters.
Okay, I don't know who that is, but we're going to look it up.
Cool.
Okay, final question of the night, Bob.
Yeah.
Chips and guacamole or French fries and ketchup?
Oh, chips and guacamole.
All day. Nice. But that's a profiling question, by the way.
Oh?
Yeah. How much do you like Mexico is basically what the question is.
Let's go.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for coming up here and hanging out with us. I really appreciate you coming over the hill on Ortega Highway and hanging out. It's always been fun, obviously, since the last couple times we've done the Mint 400 together. So I'm glad to get to know you, and I want to see where this whole lineage and history of off-road kind of stuff goes, because tonight has been a complete eye-opener for me. I've talked with Jeff Furrier a million times about the history of off-road. But it's different when you talk about it with everybody and his friends and you.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing, it just culminates and makes it such a better story. So I think a lot of the people, unfortunately, our technology wasn't working with us very much tonight, but I think a lot of the people that listen to the audio version of this when they're driving across the country or wherever they're going are really going to enjoy this, because it's really meaningful to understand how we got to where we are today.
I would love to say it was all by plan.
Yeah.
But no.
It's not, yeah.
No, it isn't. And if I was given the privilege of offering a message to the listeners out there, especially the ones that are, under 50.
Yeah.
You guys have a generation, you guys generally, of really amazing mentality, good people. Give the sport what it gives to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Give the sport what it gives to you. If it's fun for you, give it fun.
Yep.
And I would say, if you're one of those guys that says, geez, I'd love to figure out a way to do that. You know how it starts? Seriously? It's a volunteer.
Yeah, that's what we tell everybody, man.
It's just volunteer.
Go help out other teams.
I won't forget my very first time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they said, first time to be a chase guy. I wasn't a chase guy. They handed me the keys to a white pickup. And in the back of the pickup was a drum of fuel,
yep,
a spare tire, and a BFG banner.
Meet me over here.
No, not even as good as that. They said, take this truck to El Chinero. Find a bush, put the banner up. If Jerry McDonald wants his tire, he's going to stop for it. If he needs fuel, he's going to stop for it. Otherwise, he's going to drive by. Okay. He found the white truck. Yeah. I had no idea where El Chinero was. And I told him, I don't know where I'm going. Just stop every now and then and ask. They'll point you.
That's crazy,
And so they did. It was about 110 miles away. It was 105 degrees out there. Am I in El Chinero? Yeah. Boom, cool. Banner set up, truck down, back to the race course, looking for Jerry McDonald, and I realized, I'm kind of hungry.
Uh-oh.
I'm kind of thirsty. They didn't send any of that. I made it back to Ensenada. Jerry didn't take the tire or the fuel. And the next race, this is how volunteer work happens, guys.
Yep.
They gave me the keys to the pickup and said, find somebody to drive the truck.
Oh, look at that.
All of a sudden, I've been elevated.
Yeah.
And that's how it happens.
You got a
folks.
promotion.
If you just go and hang, all you have to do is hand a rag to somebody, and it helps.
100%. I think that's such good advice, though, because there's so many people that direct message us and ask those questions. How can we get into racing? And I always say, message somebody else that races. Ask them if they need help. And more than likely, they'll say yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Just show up.
You know Tony Barraza?
Yes, I do know his name. I don't know if I've shaken his hand yet.
Well, Tony's a good man. He's been in the industry for quite some time. But when he was a young man, he stopped me. This is 22 years ago. We were at the Offroad Expo. He steps out of his booth or wherever he was in the aisle, stops me. He says, you don't know me. My name is, but I know who you are. He says, you've been in the off-road industry a long time. What is the secret, he said, to succeed in the off-road world? And my brain was saying, you chucklehead. What kind of an answer is that? So I thought, here's the secret, Tony. Show up.
Yep.
Pay attention. Don't lie.
100%.
And that's what he did.
I love that, man. That makes me feel so good because that's literally the way I live my life.
Yeah.
It's been the way I've established all the businesses that I've made and all of the people that I've worked with. All of that stuff has been the same exact thing. Just show up, man.
See, now I may be a whack job, but we're together.
Yeah, 100%, right? But I do think that, and this is not going to go very far in the conversation, but I think a lot of people lack that because of the technology and all of these different things that are instant gratification these days. But you can really have a lot of success if you just live by that. So thank you very much for sharing that with our audience. Okay, well, I would like to do this again. Who knows when it'll happen, but there's a lot of racing, a lot of things that are going to happen for the Dirt Life Show this year, so we'll schedule it, and we'll have some more fun and talk about stuff a little bit more. Do you want to throw a shout-out to anybody before I do the closing?
Well, yeah, I got a shout-out to a racer in Illinois, Chuck Johnson.
Chuck Johnson, okay.
He was a privateer. He came out. He did real well. He ended up with 4 or 5 Baja 1000 wins.
Whoa.
And I just, he's one of the guys that was a little guy I was able to help, and we ended up racing together. And I'd show a shout out to him and a shout out to my son who's living in China.
Right on. Yeah. Well, we wish them both well. And yeah, shout out to all of the guests that we had tonight. Shout out to Amy Lerner for doing such a great job with her documentary, One More Win with Rod Hall. Please go check that out. Amy dedicated a lot of time and effort into this, and
skill,
and skill, everything, expertise, the whole deal, right? And what it captures of just one racer and his friends and all of these different people in the industry is phenomenal. So please go check it out. Support her, support the off-road community, and tell us what you think. And send her messages as well. I think it's Team Lerner on Instagram, so check it out. Thank you to Ricky Johnson for calling in, hanging out with us. We really appreciate Jeff Furrier and Rory Ward as well for both giving their understanding of the off-road industry, and clearly thank you to Bob Bauer for making the trek over here and sharing his stories too. You can always visit the sponsor deals page on thedirtlifeshow.com to go visit any of our partners, get deals on their products, and you can also learn how to get sponsored on that page. Alex Streiler does his sponsorship workshops, and you can talk with people like from BF Goodrich, with people from Kawasaki, Coca-Cola, anybody. He's got tons and tons of people on there that he talks to directly that you can get information from directly from the horse's mouth to send them your deck or your sponsorship proposals. So you can help out your racing program by doing that, and the Dirt Life Show wants to support you guys because you guys support us. So the next show we're going to have should be next Monday. I'm going to say should be because we're going to have it down in San Felipe for a pre-show if the house that we have has good internet. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed. If not, then we're going to have to skip the week. We'll get a bunch of content through Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, but with videos and stuff like that while we're down there at the pre-running and for the races. But if not, then we're going to do the San Felipe follow-up show or recap show. We really appreciate all the guys at IMG Motorsports for letting us hang out so much here. They're a fantastic shop. If you need anything done to your side-by-side, give them a call. And thank you to you guys. You guys are our lifeblood, like I say every show. So really, everything goes to you guys for helping us out and being such a good part of the Dirt Life Show. I've been getting approached at the Mint 400, even in the street at the gas station, because you guys are so stoked. So you guys mean the world to us, and we really appreciate you guys supporting the show because we want it to grow too. So, all right, anything else?
Thank you, viewers and listeners.
Yeah.
And I hope we did okay for you guys tonight.
Yeah, I think you did a fantastic job, Bob. So I appreciate you guys coming. So, all right. So the way we usually end this.
Yep.
Thank you for living your dirt life with us. We love you. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for listening to The Dirt Life Show. See you next week.